start today off with prayer and pledge. I'm going to ask Councilman Copeland to do the pledge and Councilwoman Sylvia to lead in the pledge.
A prayer.
Wait.
Which one?
You said pledge.
She declined, so I'll lead in the pledge.
Oh, I'm doing it. All right.
You're doing the pledge. Okay.
If you would like to participate, please bow your head. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity, for the strategic plan that you're bringing us together to move forward for the success of our city. Father, I ask, oh God, that today will be filled with understanding, peace, and progress. Lord, I ask that you give us the wisdom, the insight on how to do and what to do to move our city forward. Thank you for the vision. Thank you that vision will be shared during the session today and as we move forward as a great city. Lord, we thank you for our first responders, oh God, and as we're preparing for this winter storm, we ask, oh God, that you cover our city, oh God, keep our lights on, keep our heat running. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yeah, looks good. Looks good. It's winter, keep your face warm.
Should I grow mine out? No. This is the special. So it's not the special one. Right. Drawing on, no drawing on. That's good. Put some fuzz.
Roll call, Madam Clerk. I'm sorry.
Okay, Councilmember Sylvia.
Present.
Councilmember Williams is absent. Councilmember Balls is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Present.
Councilmember Ostash.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
Councilmember Flores.
Present.
Councilmember Copeland.
Present.
And Mayor Moore.
President.
You have 7 present and 2 absent.
Thank you. I'd like to take this time to welcome you all for getting up out of your bed on a day like today and coming to our annual strategic plan. I'm going to tell you the ground rules. I hear them phones already. Council persons, can you please silence all phones? Audience, I ask that you do the same thing. This is a public meeting of the City Council. Audience must remain quiet, refrain from clapping, booing, and any obnoxious behavior. Once again, I remind everyone to please silence their phones and their iPads. Madam Clerk.
That takes us to announcements. I just have a couple. The city convenience station is open tomorrow from 8 a.m. to noon. City residents can drop off items not picked up at the curb and any other miscellaneous bulky items. And then the next regular city council meeting will be Monday, January 22nd at the regular time of 6:30 p.m. here in council chambers. And that takes us to public input.
Speakers, I need you to speak clearly, remain courteous and respectful. When you approach the podium, you will follow the staff will get back with you with any concerns that you have. This is not a question or answer period for the council. The department head will get back with you to give you the response of whatever your request was. You have 3 minutes and you will be timed by the clerk. Madam Clerk.
Our first speaker is John Milne.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, and present guests. One of the things you'll be discussing today is the progress and still available ARPA funding. I want to bring up an area that I think has been neglected or not noticed perhaps, and that is privately owned rental housing in this city. We've done a lot to try and help homeowners of various income levels, but in the city of Saginaw, nearly 50% of the housing is privately owned rental housing, and it has not been, I think, properly addressed. That group was as strongly impacted by the pandemic as any. There were moratoriums on evictions, rent payments were down, but the cost of ownership stayed the same, if not went up. And I think it is within the city's power to look at areas where they can at least try to mitigate some of that cost to the private homeowners, because they are such an important part of our housing stock. It seems like little things, but a non-owner occupied house requires a fee, $150, I believe. They have trash collection fees, $240 at last count. And if they're doing any improvements, there's building permits. And there is something that came before us when I was on council regularly. People who have a non-owner occupied house that they want to rent or allow a family member to stay in. And they fall under the same jurisdiction as anyone renting to the general public. And that generally made them unhappy, that it didn't count in any way like owner-occupied housing. I'm going to suggest that perhaps a way to look at this would be what we in the nonprofit world call mini grants. It could be something as small as a $500 grant to cover costs to maintain that housing stock in the rental market. And I think this will have as big an impact as we tend to aim at the big projects. We're going to redevelop this building into 20 apartments or build this one. And if nothing else, that's competition for the small owner. And they provide more types of housing, everywhere from studio apartment to maybe a whole house for a family. So I think that is a good area to look at. And this could be a last opportunity, I think, to look at some of the unallocated funds returned for not being able to be used in the originally intended way. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Samuel Palong. I don't see Samuel. Glenn Steffens.
Hello again. Thank you for having me here this morning and allowing me to put in some input. You have a handout that we've given out, including some information on STAR's rolling stock. I'm here specifically to talk about ARPA funding as well. Our understanding is that whatever's not spent at the close of this window, poof, it goes away if that money is not allocated and spent properly. STARS had originally applied for some buses and some other projects, including bus stop amenities through the city. And I understand that, the council and the committee working on this was focused on children, food access, things like that. I point out that since we received our new first 8 buses and we just received 9 more last week, we've been able to expand services. We're able to stay open later in the evenings because of that. Rather than closing up at, say, 7 o'clock or, at night we're closing up at 9 o'clock. That gives opportunity for people leaving work to stop at the grocery store on the way home. We have a route that goes out to Bridgeport, to the Kroger out there that we've been able to hold on to for the past year or two, again, because of our expansion of fleet. So it might not sound directly related to some of these things, but I tell you what, the more buses that we keep getting into this city that are new, running well, and affordable to run, the more we can expand our access to further grocery job access, job routes, training programs, healthcare, you name it. We have an open contract with Gillig. We purchased 17 buses on it, and there are 16 buses left. Roughly, the cost of each bus is $590,000, not a light price tag. Dan Kilty had helped us secure the last $4 million to make our last purchase. When it comes down to the 11th hour here, I want you to know, and this is what I'm here to really tell you today, is that STARS stands by with order forms ready to fire off to Gillig. For every $590,000 that is located that cannot be spent, STARS can spend it within a day and have that order placed and that money secured. So we're standing here on the side. If there's any crumbs, if there's pieces of cake, whatever it be, we will gladly take that in and spend it on these assets to make sure that the city gets the most bang for its ARPA dollars. So thank you very much for your time. And again, we stand ready. Please contact me or Jamie Forbes at STARS if you have any questions at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Xavier DeGroat. I don't see Xavier. Mayor Samuel Palong ducked in just a second after I called his name, so I'm going to have him come forward.
I didn't hear you.
Samuel Palong, he came in just a second after I called his name.
Okay.
Good morning, Sam Palong from 5113 Sweet Avenue in Midland, Michigan. I'm here representing Disability Network Mid-Michigan today. First of all, I would like to talk about a little bit of timing. Want to rise and show our support for the STAR system. They've been very adaptive for people with disabilities and being able to be inclusive in the community, and are recognizing things that need to be done inside the community to make it a better place, both economically and a great place to live, work, and play inside the Saginaw area. So my hat goes off to that group. Today I want to also bring up a item about the parks and recs of the Saginaw area. We have some beautiful assets that are inside the Saginaw area that may need a little bit more attention to be able to help promote the health and well-being, both physically and mentally, for people inside the Saginaw area, people with disabilities and without disabilities. So as you're looking at your strategic planning for the next year and going forward, if we could look at maybe spending a little bit of extra dollars towards that side and being able to help promote some of those areas, we would dearly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to remarks of council.
Council, you also have 3 minutes. 3 minutes. We'll begin tonight with Councilman Copeland.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's gonna take us a minute. All right. It is a pleasure being here today. With the schedule, if it's okay, I'm gonna use my time to actually give my updates for my Housing Commission. I'm currently just getting back from California from a Housing Commission conference that really focused on opportunities when it comes down to HUD. And so I'm looking forward to an event on Monday at the Saginaw CAC, where I'm going to be able to talk more about what Saginaw Housing Authority is, who we are, the differences that between the Michigan Housing Program and then the Saginaw Housing Authority that is funded by the government. I think that is going to be very key. And as I got all this information, the one thing I am going to end my conversation with is that as the Saginaw Housing Authority, I ask that the city of Saginaw, we come together possibly this year. There's a lot of things going on. We know that we have the tournament coming. We see that we have ARPA dollars filtrating through our community. And one of the biggest things is the Saginaw Housing Authority is the authority in our community that focuses on affordable housing. And so whatever the past is the past, but I hope in the near future we can have some conversations on the needs of the Saginaw Housing Authority and how we can partner in these projects. There are dollars available, but as a housing authority, we need private partnerships. We need city partnership and support in order for us to move forward in addressing some of the affordable housing needs. So that is my ask during my council committee reports, is that we can come together again just to focus on what the next 5 years will look like. We see that we have the medical diamond that is coming to the community. We need to make sure that the Saginaw Housing Authority is in that conversation on how we can partner to bring affordable housing to the Saginaw community, because we do have needs, and we're looking to partner and continue to strengthen the relationship that we have with the city and with our possible developers within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Sylvia.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank everyone for coming to City Council. And we've got quite a long day ahead, and maybe we can move things swiftly ahead and not make it so long. I'd like to thank everyone for your cards and letters, condolences, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Balls.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to the council meeting this morning so we can get some things planned for the city. I just wanted to talk about a few things that have been happening with me in the community, or people have been asking me questions about the crime in the city. What are we doing about it? Is anybody going to say anything about it? And to the people that was asking me those questions, I say we're saying something about it all the time. As a matter of fact, some of the people on the council, they work with other organizations. They work with other organizations that work with youth in our community. And a lot of this crime comes from our youth. And I told them too that it got a lot to do with hope. You know, some people don't have any hope living here in the city of Saginaw. I know there's a lot of people that I know who have children that have graduated from school and college, and they end up going away, thinking they're gonna get better hope someplace else, and sometimes there are better opportunities other places. But I noticed one thing, that when we have people here that don't have much hope, they have a tendency to turn to dope. And that's one thing that we know we have a problem with in the city of Saginaw, with people that are doing a lot of drugs, gang violence because of drugs. And one thing about it, when people don't have dope, don't have hope, they would definitely use dope. So it's like a circle jerk that's going on in the city. And we, as city council and people that care about our city, I think we need to be a little bit more intentional about seeing if we can bring in more youth to get them involved and help them out and give them more hope. I wish we could even be more intentional about even giving jobs here at the city of Saginaw to youth. I know a lot of people come from the outside of the city and come get jobs and they leave out. And when they leave, they're gone. You know, some people come back and talk about parks or what have you and work in their particular organizations that they work with. But we need people right here in the city that need to have some jobs so that their kids can see them get up in the morning, going to work, seeing how it feels to have a man in the house who's getting up and going to work every morning. You know, so I'm just saying that in 2024, I hope that the city of Saginaw, all the stakeholders, be more intentional about trying to help out people that's in the community need jobs. I would even hope that the unions would even just pick up one minority in the city from each trade to try to help them out. Maybe the city can even do the thing, but I think we need to be more intentional about helping the people that live in the city of Saginaw. Because if we don't, somebody's gonna have to turn the lights out eventually when they leave up out of here. Because if the property values keep going down and things of that nature, then eventually none of us gonna be here. So thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Ostash.
Thanks, Mayor. Welcome, everybody, to the chamber today on this early morning. First council meeting of the year, and it's still January, so I always wish everybody a happy new year. Just a couple things. I'll make it real brief because I know we have a long day today. Folks, just be careful. I was recently at the hospital for some blood work, and they are talking about COVID is really up, and so is RSV. So please protect yourselves, especially our seniors and our elders or folks that have health issues that could cause problems. Also, I do want to publicly acknowledge some of our city staff that are here today. One thing I'm very passionate about in the city is traffic, calming, speed, especially in our urban areas where we have a lot of pedestrians walking. And especially with the CUP, I've had businesses and other people that live in the city in the urban areas reach out to me just because we have a lot of speed and trying to calm it. So Phil Carwat, our Director of Streets, I want to thank you for the meeting this week with Beth London and Travis, and also we had some folks, our business owners from the Old Town District that were there. Some great ideas, things that we're going to try, things that we're looking into, and they were happy with that. And also Cassie from our economic development, she knows, and we talk about this a lot. So there are things that we are looking to try and do with the CUP coming, and not just the CUP, but a lot of the development that's coming to our area that we're gonna have a lot of people living in our downtown areas. So thanks to our city staff for listening and working on those. Now for some fun stuff, Hoyt Park is going to be hosting some events, and January 20th, they're gonna be having their night skate. So that's gonna be from 4 to 7 p.m. And also, as I mentioned before, February 17th is the outhouse race. I see that Brian Luckel has been posting this onto Facebook, so get your outhouses ready with your skis, and that'll be taking place down at Hoyt Park at 1 p.m. Mayor, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Garcia.
Good morning, concerned citizens of the community. Just thank you for all the speakers that are out there, and also Mr. Glenn Steffens. I had the opportunity to see the new buses that Dan Kody got for them, and they're really nice and awesome. So I was glad to be a part of that on that cold day. Out of all days I picked to go, it did wake me up early. Just wanted to say next Friday I will be celebrating my 41st birthday, so yay. You know, now I have to clap, it's okay. So just wanted to let you know it's like a special holiday along with Martin Luther King Day, and it's actually National Popcorn Day, and I keep it popping, so works. Makes sense. Great day. Anyhow, so Eastside Soup Kitchen, they're having their bowling fundraiser, and everyone's invited. It's going to be on a Sunday, the 25th. It's a really fun event. I just participated in their volunteer thing that they had, and it was a great event. From noon to 3 at Crooked Creek Bowling Alley. It's $25 a person and includes 3 games and shoes. They also have drawings and raffles, and of course, there's good food that you can always purchase on your own. Just wanted to say for everybody to stay safe and warm. If you take anybody in this today, just be careful. You might be stuck with them all weekend, you know, so just FYI. And also to always check on your neighbors, pets and dogs, you know, because it's going to be really cold this weekend. Just make sure that everybody's good to go. I know the grocery stores were packed yesterday, so just wanted to say safety's first, you know, never put yourself at risk if you don't have to, but check on your loved ones because you never know what they're going through. And just have a blessed day and just glad to be here with council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year, Saginaw. It's great to see some former mayors and city council members here today for our session. For those of you that are U of M fans, congratulations on the big win. I don't know many U of M fans, but I know there's a couple out there. And it's going to be a big year. Nick Saban retired, and you guys won your championship. So congratulations on that. With MLK Day coming up, Alpha is putting on a Unity celebration Monday, January 15th at the Dow Center at 11 a.m. So please get your tickets. The speaker is a great speaker. It's Bob Johnson, the editor of the Saginaw News. There's more information online. I'm sure you can find tickets. But please make sure to show up and support. Also with the snow, be safe. Don't take anybody in if you don't have to and if you don't have enough food for the weekend. And then last, just with the Michigan State Police need help looking for a suspect. His name is Zachary Lawrence Rodriguez, 32, and his involvement in the murder of James Rodriguez on January 1st at the Neutral Zone Bar. And if you have any information, please call the Major Crime Unit, 989-759-1605, or always Crime Stoppers, 1-800-422-JAIL. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning, everyone. I don't really have much today. I concur with Councilwoman Lamar Sylvia that if we can do things to make the day a little bit shorter, we should try, since we have weather and people who I think have to travel back. But I'm just happy to be here. I'm looking forward to the presentations that we have later. I appreciate hearing from our public speakers. I know that STARS has been on people's minds as well, and certainly falls under many buckets. We would, you know, certainly something that we could think about investing in. To piggyback off of what Councilman Ball said about getting kids into the trades, I know from firsthand experience, we have an HVAC program and an auto body program at SCC that needs more kids from the Saginaw Public Schools, and there's definitely a disparity in those classes. So if you know any kids who are interested in those things, Councilman Balls and I sit on the city school liaison committee together, and maybe that's something we could be intentional about recruiting some kids for next year, or at least getting the word out there a little bit more through our platforms. But that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mine's is short and sweet. For those who missed it, you missed me dropping the puck at the Spirit game on Saturday. If you hadn't been there, I might have failed, but I didn't fall. A shout out to everybody in Saginaw. This has been an amazing year, and the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. I know that everybody is curious at what we're gonna do with the ARPA stuff, with the ARPA dollars, the remaining dollars. Trust me, we plan to give no money back, okay? I've heard some council people speak to that effect. We don't give money back in Saginaw, we spend it. So we've got plenty of projects that we can spend money on. The problem is, I said it in the beginning, the ARPA dollars were a blessing, but they're also a curse. Because we sometimes forget, once we get it, what we're supposed to do with it. And for that, you'll have, because you got to account for it. Okay, everybody needs to understand, you have to account, we have to account for the money. If it's not accounted for, guess who has to pay it back? So when we make the deliberation today, and I'm asking my fellow council persons to make sure that you know every ins and out, because the first go-round, we made some mistakes. And we know we did. But we don't want to do reoccurrencing of doing the same thing. Let us pick individuals or groups or activities that are doing something that's moving Saginaw forward. Me and Councilman Balls, he belongs to a group, and so do I, that's called HELP. And it is a group that is trying to do things for the young people. And I want everybody to stop blaming the young people for everything. It's not on them, it's us too.
Right.
The first day of January, that was not a baby that got killed. That was an adult. My question was, what was you doing? So, you know what? My new theme for this year, I'm announcing it early, before my State of the City. I'm not going to complain. That's the new resolution for Mayor Moore. I'm not going to complain. And if you want to complain, please have a solution for the complaint. If you're not part of the end result, that's your fault. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
That takes us to the consent agenda.
Now, listen, y'all. We do it different. This is not a regular council meeting, so if I mess up, charge it to my head, not to my heart.
Yes, Mayor, I'm sorry, we need a motion to.
I know,
suspend the
we
rules.
need a motion to suspend the council rules of order and change the order of business to follow the strategic plan session schedule prepared by the city manager.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, she told me to look at her when I got stumped.
Now we're at the consent agenda.
Okay. This is not, I'm used to 6:30, not 9 o'clock. On the consent agenda, the agenda has been available on City Hall and on the city webpage and on SGTV Channel 191. I need a motion to accept the agenda, leaving room for exceptions.
So moved.
Do we have any exceptions? Having no exceptions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
Our next item is the report from the manager.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have a number of presentations today, but I also wanted to mention that we, through our Redevelopment Ready Community Certification, we do have a number of our boards and commission members here today, so I want to thank them for attending. That's one of our requirements. So they're here and participating in this meeting today. So with that, I do want to bring up Guidehouse with their ARPA update so they can get that started for us.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So today's going to be a little bit different. We're going to go into more detail on each of the currently funded projects, just so you have a better idea of very specifically what's going on with them. So this is just a quick overview of each organization, the amount they've been awarded, the amount that has been drawn, and any amounts in progress. And like I said, we're going to go into this a little bit more detail. So starting with the NABE, with the fiduciary of MSC. Basically, it's an after-school and summer program, and The curriculum is meant to align with the school's curriculum to help the students succeed and be better prepared for school. They've been awarded $2.3 million. They've already drawn over $1 million, and so they're moving along. They currently have nothing in progress, so they will be submitting during the next monitoring round. And then, so they've drawn 44%, and there's no real updates other than that their project is moving forward. The next is the Yearn program run through World Outreach Church. And that is supposed to provide employment and training opportunities for youth. They've been awarded $2.1 million. They were advanced $510,000, and they've requested an additional $547,000, which is on pause. They have had some discrepancies in documentation, and so we brought in Plant Moran to have a very objective look at everything that's been spent, everything that's been submitted, and see where those gaps in documentation are. And so Plant Moran is going to be here today to speak a little bit about, they wrote a memo that I believe council received, and so they can answer more specific questions about the memo and the breakdown of that, but just very generally, there has not been backup for everything that there needs to be. And so we have been working with them, and I think, so yeah, they're pending a clean audit for Plant Moran. And just as it's been touched on before, but if any money is ineligible and it's been spent, ideally the organization pays back the city, but ultimately the city is responsible to the Department of Treasury. So if anything is not recaptured that has been incorrectly spent, the city is responsible for that.
Excuse me 1 minute. I seen your face.
Can we,
Is it at the end?
can we let her go through
Okay.
all of them first?
All right, so the next is Saginaw CAC. They are doing some renovations, demolition, and they've been working on repairs at their affordable housing locations, and also doing some work with their weatherization program. They were awarded $1.2 million. They've drawn a little under $470,000. They have 0 in progress, which is, it's not a bad thing. It's just a neutral position to be in. And then they've spent 38%, and the status is in progress. So they're also moving along. First Ward, they're doing community center rehab. They were awarded a little under $1 million. They've drawn about 34% of that, and they are in progress. The Boys and Girls Club, they're doing a renovation to their kids' campus building. They were awarded $900,000. They've drawn 0, but they've been going through a feasibility study that they believe should be done within the next 30 days. They originally had been prepared to do construction and then found out that where they were trying to add on to the building was in a flood zone, so they had to change what they were going to do, and so that's why they're completing the second feasibility study, and then they believe that they are confident they can spend the money once the study is done, which again should be within the next 30 days. So again, they're in progress, they just haven't drawn money yet. And Houghton Jones, they are doing after-school programs, summer youth programs, and they're doing some upgrades and repairs to their building. They were awarded $400,000. They've spent 27%, and they do have $75,000 in process. And all that means is that they've submitted a request, and we're in the process of going back and forth with them, monitoring to make sure everything that they have been awarded previously has all of the necessary backup documentation to make sure everything's eligible. And so once that is clear and that's the case, we will recommend that the city release those funds, and the turnaround is pretty quick. For MAC, they are doing education and musical programs for youth, and they're working on improving the building that they have to run programming out of. They were awarded $500,000. They've drawn a little over 50%, and they're in progress. And again, they don't have anything currently that they're requesting, but that's not a bad thing. That's just where they are in the monitoring process. Friends of Hoyt Park, they were a little delayed because their location also was in a floodplain, so they had to move some stuff around, get different permits, and so that slowed them down. However, they have submitted an initial request for $46,000, so we're just working with them to make sure, again, that they have the support they need for us to recommend that the city release those funds. And then Women of Colors, they are running several different programs out of their location. They were awarded $200,000. They've drawn a little over 11, and they've recently submitted a request for $32,000. So again, just working with them, making sure that they have the documentation, and if there's any gaps, just asking them to submit additional support. And then Big Brothers Big Sisters, they received a hardship grant, so all of that money has been drawn. The city doesn't have to worry about it. And same with Public Libraries of Saginaw. They received $20,000 for the library program of renting out tools and other things that residents may need on a one-time basis, and so they don't have to purchase them. That was $20,000. They've drawn it, and so again, the city does not have to worry about that. And these are the revenue replacement projects being run by the city. They are moving along or complete. And then here are the non-revenue replacement projects. I do just want to point out that that $26 million includes the projects that we just went over. I just didn't want to like duplicate all of those numbers again. So that includes everything on this slide and all of the programs we just discussed.
Oh, shoot.
And so there are some potential projects that you may want to consider with any additional money, or potentially once if money is recaptured from certain organizations. And these are through the city, and so there would be very little risk of not being able to spend on time. Because as you know, the obligation deadline is December 31st of 2024. And so after that, if money is not able to be spent, you can't recapture it and reallocate it. So if a program is unlikely to spend by the end of this year, that's potentially money that the city loses. And so all money has to be completely spent by December 31st of 2026. So again, these are projects that the city is recommending and could very likely spend before the deadline. And then we are very likely as Guidehouse to exceed our current spend rate based on all of the technical assistance we've been providing to organizations, especially ones that have had challenges with their documentation. And so, potentially that is somewhere additional money could go. And just as a side note, Plant Moran and PPA, who's doing the food feasibility study, their payments come out of our contract, and so, it's less than initially was, awarded for this contract. And so I'm happy to take any questions, concerns.
Yes, Councilman Copeland.
Thank you for your presentation. The two questions I have is going all the way back to the Word Outreach and Yearn, and just to clarify the process for us. So when, and correct me if I'm wrong, if a organization is wanting to make a purchase or anything, that they submit information to you all. You all review the process to make sure that those purchases are acceptable. How then did we get into this situation?
So, they were allowed to do.
I can answer that.
Okay.
If you recall, the administration did recommend that we not do advances, but it was the general consensus of council that we advance these organizations' money, and that's what happened in this case. They put their budget together and their plan and submitted for an advancement. So now you go through the process of reconciliation. That was the risk of doing these type of advance payments, and that's what we're dealing with now.
I'm still confused on that part. If they still had to submit something to it, so they didn't have to submit
So
anything to you.
for an advance, like this one, they would submit how they anticipate spending the funding. And so for this one, it's $500,000 because it was supposed to be for the whole year's summer program. Because this is quite a bit more than would likely normally be advanced, but there has to be reasoning behind why it would make sense to advance a certain amount of money, especially when it is so large. And so it was to run the summer program. And then so when they submitted their second request, was during their monitoring period. And so that's when we selected a sampling based on their risk assessment of what we needed to see. So it was a random selection of everything that they had submitted. And for them, it was initially 5% because they were considered to be lower risk based on the answers that were given in their risk assessment. And so when we reviewed what was submitted, there were a lot of like inconsistencies and gaps, and that's where we brought in Plant Moran to just kind of like take a neutral look at, like, they don't necessarily know the regulations, they're just looking to see not if something's eligible or ineligible, but like, how much did you say was spent? How much do you have support for? What is that support? And they could go into a lot more detail, I think, when we get here. If you have any specific questions, they have a very in-depth tool where it matches every single line item that they requested for, and what it was, the amount that was requested, the amount that there was backup for, and so, yeah. The amount that was requested, the amount that they provide documentation for, a link to that documentation, so any receipts, ideally bank statements, and just any details that would go to support that, and any notes that maybe seemed like they weren't sure about, like because they aren't experts in the regulations, they were just looking at the data they're provided, and so if they thought something seemed a little odd based off of what they knew, they would make a note of it. And so that's for us to work with the city to determine what we would consider to be eligible, and out of what was eligible, anything that was advanced that we can't find that there is no supporting documentation for or is ineligible, they would have to pay back to the city, and if they're unable to, the city would have to pay it back to Treasury.
Thank you.
still a bit confused. And my first question, I have a couple in regards to this, and I have a few more questions. Is there anything that you are not sharing that you find yourself that you cannot share at this particular time?
I mean,
I'm just saying, is it something that
Not-
maybe you can't get into right now?
I think there's things in the memo, that I think are useful.
And I don't think I got that memo, that was my other thing, but, okay. Or it's
It was sent via email last night.
last night?
No.
Oh, I meant Thursday.
Yeah, it's attached to the
It was
PowerPoint
last night.
that we
Oh,
just.
yeah.
Okay, see, I didn't get that, I didn't get that, I'm sorry. I'll go back and
Yeah.
look at it during lunch, break. World Outreach Church, Yearn, is World Outreach Church the fiduciary
Yes.
for Yearn?
Yes, and
So we're dealing with kind of like, is it two things that maybe Yearn, is it,
yeah, so it's a little complicated, because
Yeah.
World Outreach Church is part of the overarching yearn. But World Outreach Church is the fiduciary, so they are the one with the contract with the city. And they are the one that the rest of the churches submit everything to.
so, and maybe when I go and look, maybe I'll see some more. So is the problem, and I don't know if we can place it one place or the other, so is the problem with the fiduciary, or is it with Yearn?
I think a little bit of both, and I think for a lot of things, it's not super clear, just because of who is submitting the documentation to us.
Okay.
So it, perhaps documentation gets lost when it's going from an individual organization that's a part of Yearn to World Outreach Church. So it's possible that all of the churches that make up Yearn have submitted exactly what they need to, and maybe it just didn't make it from World Outreach to us. But based on everything that we've received, Plant Moran was able to do an analysis, and their general findings are in the memo.
Okay, can I want another question?
Hold on 1 minute.
Okay.
Let me just say this. In the very, very beginning, I said to all of us, this is cost reimbursement. You get that money, you got to report it. You've got to report every penny. Now we're in a dilemma. We still got more money to allocate. Council, are we going to go back and keep making the same mistakes? David, who was our first guidehouse, no offense against you ladies, he recommended to us capital improvement. Try to steer away because none of us knew the guidelines for programs. Capital improvement just meant you need a roof, we fix the roof, we come expect it, boom, you're done. No report. When you get into the reporting system with this, I need everybody to understand, Plant Moran was available. It was up to the persons that got the money to submit it to, Guidehouse was available. It was up to that group or organization to get with Guidehouse before they spent the money to make sure that it was being spent appropriately. I want everybody to hear that, because I think we're gonna keep going around and around and around. But it's called accountability. And if they can't afford to pay it back, then it rests on the shoulders of city manager, which means the money comes from who? Other citizens. Citizens who had nothing to do with this. And we have an obligation up here that when we allocate this money, we need to make sure this money is going and going to be used properly. If it's not going to be used properly, we need to throw our hands up. We just need to throw our hands up already. So I just want to say that, because I don't want us to keep going round and around. Guidehouse did nothing. We know we was going to end up on Guidehouse some more money. Quit playing. Because when you came up with the programming, you also said to the community, whatever it takes, I want it to run. But Guidehouse can't make you come to them and ask before you spend the money. That's on you. So Monique, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I just want everybody to have a clear understanding. It is not like we are, and I hate to say that. I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. But that's where we at now. Cost reimbursement. Anybody that knows CBDG, Community Block Grant money, you know that's how this goes. If I get 50 cents, I got to account for all 50 pennies. That 1 penny, if I don't spend it, I gotta give it back. So now we're in a dilemma. Yes, Councilman Boss, and then you, Councilwoman.
Thank you. So say, for instance, we got some entities here that's in dilemma of not reporting right. When are we gonna cut them off and go someplace else with the money? I mean, how long do we have to do that?
It's up to you on when to vote for it, but I would say sooner than later because they have to have, the money has to be obligated by the end of 2024.
Right.
And, excuse me,
Take your time.
sorry. So this is like a roundabout way to answer your question, but, we would recommend any additional funding going to either the city projects or organizations that are already funded, and that are spending and are doing a good job, just because that cuts down a lot of time. Because you awarded last year in January, and with the process of like going back and forth and getting the risk assessment, the monitoring plan, the contract, they didn't sign contracts until May. And so it puts organizations that maybe even like could spend the money very well, it puts them at a disadvantage because they're so delayed. They're already gonna be about a year behind these organizations.
So, say for instance, after Planning Moran come and give us a report on what the issues are, then maybe the city council can say, well, we're gonna give them 2 months or 30 days or 90 days to get their stuff in order, and if it's not, then we can allocate that money later to those particular other organizations. So as a council, we gotta make a timeline to make sure that they're doing the right thing. If they're not, we say we're going someplace else with it. The other question is, I got some proposals here for the other amounts that was put together. Who done this?
Is it from the PowerPoint?
No.
Councilman Boss. Hold that, we're gonna talk about that. Hold that, that's something entirely different than their presentation, I'm sorry. That's something entirely different.
Thank you.
Okay?
Can I,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, just the items that were on the Guidehouse presentation for potential expenditures, I believe council members asked staff to put together a list of potential projects that were eligible and would be, fairly easy spends for capital projects or quick projects, and that's where those came from.
You talking?
No, not
No, in your package.
The ones in the presentation.
Okay.
It starts on slide 16 of the PowerPoint, if you have that.
But now that's not limited to, let me say this, it's not limited to these proposals that the city gave. What they did was they looked at who was capable of spending this money. Now, if you've got some agencies or groups, council persons, that you think on capital improvement,
That's your suggestion, man.
that's right,
I'm saying,
that's
so
my
that's-
suggestion.
Okay, this is
Capital
suggestion, like,
improvement, get in, get out. If you've got a program, if we do your capital improvement, you can take that money that you would have done it, put it in your general funds, and you have no report with us.
Right.
Yep.
I said all this in the beginning. I don't even know why people shocked. I said this in the very beginning. We have a responsibility to this community. although the money came in the name of City of Saginaw, we as a body said, we're gonna give it in the community. And if we're gonna give it in the community, we need to be responsible.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I just want to say thank you for your presentation and also for listing those potential projects. It gives me a lot of information. I'm on the Youth Development Committee, and it helps to understand like the amount of money, their objective, what they're trying to do. And I know grants are not always easy, and I think people need to understand that this is government money, and it's serious. It's federal dollars, you know, and this is a big opportunity for the city of Saginaw. We should not be taking advantage of it, you know. So I just want to say thank you for that, and I'm hoping that we can, you know, consider some of these, because that way we have something to show for capital programming. You can see here and there, you can look down the road 5 to 10 years, oh, I had a take in this landmark, that's something there, or we invested in all these buses that are providing transportation for great services in the community, or, you know, just vans for youth protection to get them to their counseling meetings or wherever they need to go. So just something like that will leave an impact for the city of Saginaw. Like, that's what we did with our ARPA dollars, not that it went into somebody's salary, so.
Right.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm gonna get you, Councilwoman.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna get you.
Thank you.
I wanna make sure, no, I wanna make sure everybody get round number 1 in. And then I go back to the 2. Councilman Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. It's very encouraging to see what folks are spending how much and how much they have to go, and good on the folks that have spent quite a bit of money already. Just with this presentation, do you have any information on like future funding sources or the work that Guidehouse has done to get additional money? So that was in the original, not agreement, but the outline before the agreement. Has there been any progress on any of that?
I'm not sure. I'm happy to look into it. It's not in this presentation, but
So what was listed was ARPA, infrastructure bill, ARPA state programs, Build Back Better, and then revolving federal programs, and how partnering with them would be able to get additional funds. So I'll just do a request of information and look forward to that.
Great.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Mayor. I saw your point. I'm going this way.
Did you ask the question already? Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's early in the morning, okay?
Trying to keep our, what's going on here. Thank you again for the presentation, and I'm going to concur with my colleague here, Councilwoman Park Garcia, what she said, and also Councilman Balls. Through your presentation, when you hit the urn, that's when my red flags went up. That's when I got concerned. And when you start talking about it, and I'm 100% with Councilman Balls now too, it's exactly what I was gonna ask, is what point do we have to pull this money back? And we're in January, and we know how fast that December 31st is going to be here, especially with an election year and everything that's going on. So that's just more of a comment. I really didn't have a question. But the question I would have is, at what point this year do we really need to take a look at? Is it 4 months down the road, 6 months? Because I know even if we do a capital improvement project, which I'm 100% on board with the mayor on that, you still have the contracts to sign, the contractors to get, you've got to get your proposals ready, and that can take a month or two. I mean, I'm the treasurer for a nonprofit, and right now we're doing roof repairs. That took us 3 months just to get material bought and things through our boards. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. We had some good ideas here. Thank you for all the proposed projects. Thanks for staff for putting that together, because I will definitely take a look on that on my trip down to Columbus, Ohio today, once we get through the snowstorm. Looking at where we can do that. And thank you for STARS coming here today too, because as Priscilla talked too, transportation is huge in this city. I was working with a family just yesterday, 2 kids, mother and dad, homeless, and trying to get them into the shelter. And what came up? Transportation. Well, where can I get, Councilman? Well, that bus takes me 2 hours to get here, but the more buses we run, the more routes, and then we can cut down on the cycle time. So I just want the public to hear my comments on that, and then I'm gonna stop right there. Thanks.
Councilwoman, Mayor Pro Tem, then Councilwoman Sylvia.
Just very briefly, thank you for the presentation and thank you for the information.
Gotta talk loud.
Thank you for the information and thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to make the comment that just reading through the memo on URN, I agree with my colleagues. I don't think, it's a disconcerting read, I'll be honest. And I understand why the mayor is not trying to say I told you so, but this was forecast as a potential issue, and it's frustrating to be at this point, because this is such an important, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do this right. But I would say I don't feel comfortable giving any more than 30 days between how long we have to allocate the other groups that are asking. I mean, we obviously have, 3, slides here of potential projects. I think a lot of them, there's consensus already around. So that would be my opinion. I think, 30 days would be the most I'd feel comfortable before having to make a decision to claw things back.
Well, and we had talked about 30 days with the city.
Thank you. Okay.
I need everybody to understand that Guidehouse has performed. They have performed. We failed. And I mean, we did not go, wait, listen. What I mean by that is this.
Say that, yeah, no.
Well, you need to let me finish. We didn't do all of our due diligence because there was a book that was published, and I don't know how many of y'all came to get that book. It had every one of the proposals in. And so when you make a recommendation for a program, you need to look at the stats. Look at what they're requesting, look at how much they're asking for, and let's try looking at their track record. So when I mean, y'all, we didn't fail, but we got to do better with this next round.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate everything that you're sharing, but I have to say, from the beginning of this process, with our community, we waited. They had to submit 3 times because we were told that we were going to operate it like the CBDG, then we made another decision, and then we brought this committee together who did exactly what we did in September, who would have been a team that could have done the CBDG process, that would have created a rubric and a scoring for all of this. And so if we would have had a scoring in the first place, we wouldn't be here having these conversations, whether it be programming or capital expenditures, because our community needs programming dollars.
Right.
Our community centers have been without money for years, underfunded. Other programs get the funding because they have those partnerships, but some of our community centers have been underfunded for years. So we talked about this was going to change our community, this was going to be a great opportunity, and that's why I will say, for me, I wanted to make sure that we had some programming dollars because I understood what our youth needed, and our community centers were not going to get those fundings. And when we found out about the risk assessment, it was almost 6 months after we knew, and I remember the meeting because I asked David, so this was the first thing that was required in this whole process, and we're just now finding out about it after we've had all these conversations. That risk assessment could have been done in a part of the process in at least round 2 when people had to submit proposals. So I understand where our mayor is coming from, but we do take on our due diligence, but it is as a team. We went back and forth. Guidehouse, City Council. We went around in circles. So I'm going to give kudos to Guidehouse, kudos to the cities, but we all are going to take this together. And from this point forward, if we are proposing additional dollars, I do ask that there's a rubric, because $80,000, that's, if I'm looking at this report, I don't know if I'm supposed to share it. Can I share that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. Spread that. That amount, knowing that these organizations were meeting with Guidehouse ever so often, how did we get to that amount of money not being accounted for, whether we gave them an advance or anything? If I have a P card, I have to submit my dollars every month. And that is how we keep track. So how do we get $80,000 at the end of the summer? Oh, I was supposed to say.
That's an
Sorry.
example. That's an example. That's an example.
How do we get to that amount at the end of the summer without it being checked? So I just wanted to say that because we need programming. The capital is great, but when we see the youth, and I even want to make a recommendation that we could possibly move some dollars to adult support, because a lot of this money's been going to the youth, but it's been the parents that need the help. It's been the parents. Our mayor, you did talk about wraparound services.
You think?
That is what we need to put our dollars towards,
Yeah,
because we
fine.
can continue to help the youth. But it's their mama, their daddy, their aunts and uncles and grandparents
Preach,
that need
brother,
the support right now. I'm sorry, all right, I'm done.
So we're gonna get back on task. Okay, and task is that, does anybody else have any questions? I'm sorry. Councilwoman Sylvia.
Thank you so much.
Girl, you know
Anyway,
what?
I did want to say thank you for the presentation. Part of some of what I wanted to say came from Councilman Copeland, maybe not with that fire, but definitely have to concur with, definitely. But what I do want to say is, I don't want to, it seems like this is the only program that is having the problems right now, or what we can see. So I don't want this particular program to make the other programs look, I don't want to say bad, but that's the only word I can think of right now. And what I do want to know is, possibly from the city manager, has there been meetings with you and Yearn, and those meetings have taken place? And I guess I can't ask you really, but have those meetings taken place? And
Well, yeah, they've been.
what can you say
Second page.
now? And I still have to look at this information that came last night that I didn't get to see.
Yeah, there've been several meetings.
Okay, okay.
Especially with staff, Yolanda Bland and Lori Brown and Guidehouse, and I met with them a few times as well. It all gets down to when you get to the reporting point. Issues there, issues with the, I think I would say confusion about what administrative expenses mean, or indirect costs. So that's been a pretty significant portion. I mean, and to Councilman Copeland's point, we could talk about numbers if you want. This is a public document. And it's public money,
I
so-
want it all out. I don't want to hold anything up. I just don't think it's fair to hold anything up.
It's not a secret, but when you get down to the monitoring plans and everything, I think, addressing some of the issues, the way, we had one application period, I would correct that. There were other people who told organizations to submit applications to the city. That was not an application period. We were not ready for that.
Right.
So we received a lot of applications prior to having anything set up, which is why we had the second one. Now, I understand the point of having some kind of a rubric set up to score those as they came in, but to do that, we would have needed a much more controlled application process, because you could not run, did not have the staff, or Guidehouse had the staff to run 300 organizations or proposals through that rubric. So, there are always ways that you could do things better. We could have invited specific organizations, or said, this is what we want, to not get so many applications, that many of which were not even eligible to receive funds. But, that's part of the product of having $52 million for the first time ever and running a program like this. I think there could have been, in my view, better ways to operate this from a state level and from a federal level too. But of course, it's the first time anyone has done this type of thing. So I see the confusion there, but when you get down to those monitoring periods and you talk about when are you asking for these reports, a lot of the monitoring came from the interviews with the organization, where the organizations could assert, I have this much experience with federal funds. So if an organization is telling you that, then you set up your monitoring period for that, and you would assume that you understand what federal allowable indirect costs are. And then you do the advance, and then you get to that point, and obviously the organization does not understand what allowable federal indirect costs are. So those are some of the issues that popped up. And it is a good point, because that Councilwoman Lamar Sylvia makes, because we're talking about one, out of all of them that we've done, And as Councilman Flores said, you've got good progression on a lot of the expenditures. A lot of them that have been done, a lot of the money that's spent is, you probably look at the expenditures that are made, and they are capital. And that is really the best way to push the money out. As the mayor said, your budgets are fungible. So if you had plans for capital, you use this money for capital, and then you can move some of your other money to programming, which is good for the organization as well, because then you're not looking at Plant Moran, looking at all of your receipts for those items. But, so those are just some, I think you've touched on some good points, but there are reasons for that. But if you have specific questions about the expenditures, or that you saw in the memo, that's why we have Plant Moran here today.
Can I come back later? Is there room later for those questions? Because I didn't see that.
You
but I'm
can
gonna
come
be
back
looking.
later. I mean, these are the individuals who are coming from out of town, so we want to get them out before the snow starts.
Okay,
But
yeah,
if
definitely.
Mayor, if there aren't more questions for Claire right now, if you want to take a 10-minute break so that council members can review that again.
Fine, it's coffee time. It's too early in the morning. We're gonna take a 10-minute break, please. Is there any more questions for Guidehouse? Are we okay?
I got it, Bob.
Okay.
No,
We're ready to
Okay.
move on.
So then,
for now.
Mr. Manager, who is your next presentation?
Well, we want to go back to the next part of the agenda, so this should be on your.
I told everybody to charge this to my head, not to my heart. This is not a standard meeting. So,
Next.
we want to go back to miscellaneous, right?
If you're done with the discussion, the ARPA.
Are we done with the ARPA discussion?
I just have one more thing. When it comes down to the fairgrounds, just to put a little note, if we could watch out, because we're already in the contractor phase, if we could watch out, I know it's been 20 years, so raccoons, possums, all
We
that
already
other
said
stuff,
that.
and their cousins.
We already
Are gonna be coming out, so if we, I don't know what we do to prep the community, saying, hey, when we come in, we're gonna, I don't know if there's a partnership or something like that, where we could just help mediate it before we start clearing out.
I know Cassie and her staff have been meeting with the neighborhood associations over there all throughout the process, so we'll keep them updated to let them know when the project's starting.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question. Hopefully, any other questions I can direct to you directly or the city manager. In regards to Yearn and their fiduciary, most fiduciaries have money in and of their self to fall back on. The World Outreach Church, they didn't have money to fall back on. So why were they approved and how did they become the fiduciary for Yearn? And silence fell over Jerusalem.
I don't think that it's so much silence,
I want to,
and this is just me speculating. They all got together and they named their fiduciary.
Right, so
And this
so
was
then
in
how
it.
was the fiduciary approved?
Okay, but it was approved through the whole group. Nobody can't move without you saying.
So,
That's just like United Way. United Way is the hub sometime for CBDG.
They have money.
Wait. But you know what? Didn't we say that in the beginning? If you don't have any money to start a startup program, it's gonna be
I'm
hard.
talking about the fiduciary, not Yearn. I'm talking about the
the
fiduciary.
Yearn selected their fiduciary.
Yearn, that's what I kept saying. Yearn
Why
selected
were they
their
allowed
fiduciary.
to get-
They can pick who they want.
They
No,
did it.
can't, but
They
Jesus.
can pick who they
The
want.
city did not pick. Hold on. Reggie, you just arrived. Yes, sir.
Oh, I was just raising my hand to give George my time. He been down.
because I do wanna, during this whole process, there were a couple of times where we had organizations that Guidehouse told us that we had to change their fiduciary. So what was the process that Guidehouse went through for, what was that?
No,
Because-
Guidehouse didn't change any
No,
fiduciary.
they recommended, we had a couple of them where they recommended, due to whatever the process was, that they had to shift.
That came from the organization themselves. I don't think Guidehouse recommended.
They didn't
It
recommend
came
that.
through the monitoring
picked 'em.
meetings, and then I think organizations realized that they didn't have the capacity to do this, and then they requested it. So the only one, and Lori probably knows better, but I know one organization changed fiduciary. Is that
The food club to
the NABE and the food club?
Yeah.
Or the two, and the food club is more recent.
So with us signing a contract for $850,000 for an organization to really be the safeguard for us as a city, are we saying that we did not say to Guidehouse, we need safeguards in place to cover us? Because that's why we went in contract with Guidehouse, to make sure that we will be in line. So publicly, I want us to make sure, when we went through this process and getting fiduciaries, we have a whole process when it comes down to city funding. We said, just put us a fiduciary, and Guidehouse did not go and verify. Is there, maybe I should ask this, is there a verification process for fiduciaries to determine that they should be a qualified fiduciary?
Very.
Good question.
We didn't get to that point. Let me stop you. This thing was not that extensive in the very beginning. The organizations picked their own fiduciary. It was not Guidehouse responsibility to find fiduciaries. Now, they all agreed. And if you agreeing with somebody, that means that you're saying, okay, we trust them.
But we didn't protect ourselves.
Well,
But-
I would make 2 points to that, though, because, one of the reasons why the Guidehouse expenses are so high is because of the continuous work with those fiduciaries. And two, go back to my recommendation, which was reimbursement only, that would have protected the city from something like this. And it was consensus from council that was, they need to have the advances. We did have, from the CDBG, we did provide that memo to council. CDBG is 100% reimbursement for these purposes, but that was not the direction that we received. So that's where these issues come in. There is, I don't think there's anything that you could do perfectly to protect that from a fiduciary, but we didn't tell anyone who the fiduciary could be. But that was part of the reason for, I think, the consensus of doing the advances in this grant was comments that these organizations don't have money to start the program.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, I thought you yielded your time.
That was before.
Carry your time back home, okay?
But I want to refer back to
Okay,
Councilman
I'm
Copeland.
all right with it,
Because
Councilman
he asked the question, is there a validation process in place for fiduciaries? And that it's being implied that, no, there isn't, but it hasn't been directly answered.
Well, I mean, the process of the monitoring process is where that organization basically provides the information of, have you, and Claire could probably tell it better because I didn't go through the process, but it's,
I see.
have you worked with federal grants before? Yes,
That's the
no.
question.
So if there is a yes answer there,
Okay.
you would assume that they have that experience. I don't know what
Tim,
the
to
other
your
questions.
point, there's, during the risk assessment, there's a ton of like detailed questions, but they self-report. And so it's, do you have, funding to support this? Do you have experience with federal grants? Like all of these, it's like several pages long. And so, based on their answers, is how like risk is determined.
Yes.
It looks like we dropped the ball big time.
Excuse me.
Yes,
To
Councilman.
me, that's what it looks like.
Okay. You're almost talking apples and oranges. Giving someone, an agency, money ahead of time is one thing, but we're talking about the fiduciary. That's totally different.
No.
To me, we talking, Monique is, I said to me, that's totally different. The fiduciary not having monies to fall back on if something happened, one of the questions should have been, and I'm going to concur with Councilman Williams, the ball has been dropped, and that's back there. But going forward, a fiduciary must have some sort of capital, some sort of money in case something like this happens. Yeah, to me, yeah, we could have given them agencies money ahead of time, but when you have the fiduciary that doesn't have money or capital, you know, what do we go after? You know, of course, it's gonna fall back possibly on the city, but do we go after, certain, you know, capital, from World Outreach or what?
Yeah, you can, because they're responsible to the city, and the city's responsible to the treasury.
Well, okay, thank you.
I think they answered your question.
That
didn't
sure
they?
did.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So at the end of the day, again, we still have an obligation to do our homework. Don't recommend anything that you've not done homework on.
Right.
Because you, not just us, everybody needs to be sure that what they're getting is what they give. Yes, sir.
You gotta know where
I'm
to put the
sorry.
money back.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. She had her hand up.
Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
I just wanted to clarify, I haven't found the amendment, but I did find the initial resolution from about this time last year for Yearn. And I think what had happened was initially the motion we passed was giving the money directly to Yearn, and we had to come back and amend it because we weren't allowed to give the money directly to the recipient. We had to give it, because they had to have a fiduciary, basically. So they worked amongst themselves and decided that World Campus Outreach Campus was going to be their fiduciary. So the council turned around and came back with an amendment from staff to correct that, and then we turned around and passed it. So we passed it the first time with Yearn being the fiduciary, had to correct it, but that was done on their decision process. I think the big error, you know, if there is an error, is that we chose to fund an organization, give them money up front when they didn't have it in the first place. And it seems to me that because this organization is an amalgamation of like 6 or 7 different churches, you have everybody with a different idea of what you can spend the money on. Everybody has a different idea of how you can present it and report it back. And everybody, you know, and then it doesn't, from the report, it doesn't look like it's even consistent within the different 7 organizations as to how they're reporting stuff. So I think we've made some errors, but hindsight is always 20/20, and I think the important thing is that we identify those errors, acknowledge them, and make sure we don't repeat those mistakes when we do the, you know, reallocation. But as much as we want to place blame somewhere, it's not on the city, I don't think. I think the council made an error maybe with the fact that we went with an organization that was going to be so cumbersome to do the reporting. But, I mean, we know a lot of these folks, and we know that their intentions are good and their heart's in the right place, and nobody's trying to line their pockets. They're trying to do something good for the city. So, I mean, I think that we have only one. I think if it was everybody, it would demonstrate that we made an error and there was something going on with Guidehouse. But the fact that it's one organization, I think we should probably be relieved that it's just the one organization right now.
We can be relieved, but we still dropped the ball.
Right, I know, and we gotta make sure we don't do it again.
There we go.
That's, yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna give money to somebody who's got 8 organizations under them again.
The what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Is there
that
any
part.
more? Yes.
I didn't hear the last part.
I just said I wouldn't be comfortable giving, you know, money to an organization that has 7 or 8 different bodies operating underneath
okay.
it. Yeah, I mean, that seems to be
Yeah.
the source of the confusion for everybody.
Again, our due diligence is to make sure when you present the people in your pockets, you know who you are. You need to get with your groups and make sure. And make sure. And then if you got questions, let's ask questions. Yes, sir.
Well,
Councilman Balls, I
one thing
see
about
him.
it, I mean, we can't make sure that they was gonna do the right thing. I mean, we
Right.
just don't know that for a fact. The city spends money, we don't know if they come back and do accounting error and Yolanda say, oops, I gotta put this over here, put this over there. Especially since she got a city manager that used to be an accountant and stuff, so I'm sure many times that they had to wobble and whiffle sometimes to get things right. Not just I'm just saying. So, and what I'm gonna say now is that,
Don't beat up.
yes, we did have the organizations, they did have good intentions, they could have made some mistakes. Hopefully, we can get all this corrected and move on. It's amazing that, The only problem we having these issues with is all the religious organizations. You know, I don't know why that popped in my head like that, but I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But one thing about it, y'all, sometimes we have underlining stuff that
Pray
messes
for
up
'em.
organizations, and hopefully we get this back together. So, we got Patty Moran on them, we trying to get it straight out, we're gonna get them a certain amount of time to get this done, and we can move on to the next organization. So hopefully, we appreciate your presentation, man. I think we need to move on, because we can ask you 1,000
Right.
questions.
Let's go.
And we won't
Yes.
get nowhere
George
back.
wants to ask
Yes.
1,001.
I think now that we know that my answer to the fiduciary, if we are gonna allocate additional money, I do ask that it's more than a questionnaire when we are making a decision on the fiduciary. I do hope that documentations, assets are submitted, so as we as council are voting, as it comes to city staff, we are aware, because right now, my question, it was just a questionnaire. As of now, it was a questionnaire they filled out, they said yes, yes, yes. Was there any documentation they submitted to confirm or those assets?
So there should have been, it was before I joined, so I can't say for
I
sure,
understand.
but there should have been.
So I just ask moving forward as we go into these resolutions, if we are, and I can say for myself, if we're gonna allocate large sums of money, my first question is gonna be who's the fiduciary and what assets can they support? Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not for now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager,
The next item we are going to is miscellaneous business, right?
Yeah, just a reminder to council that discussion can only be on the merits of any motion that's made under miscellaneous.
say that again, you quiet too.
Discussion under miscellaneous business can only be on the merits of any motion that's made under miscellaneous business.
Did the council hear that?
No, I did not. No, I
Put that
didn't.
mic in front of you.
Sure, I'll say it again. Discussion under miscellaneous business can only be on the merits of any motion that is made by council under miscellaneous
Okay,
business.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Related to the ARPA, let me do it again. Are there any other questions related to the ARPA? If not, is the miscellaneous, do we have any motions that we want to set forth?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yes.
As far as ARPA, you finna vote on some of the ARPA proposals we have here? No, yes.
Yeah.
You're only gonna vote on motions that are made,
Motions,
so until
motions to
one-
move the package you had in front of you.
Right.
Motion
Now
to
this-
move those forward.
Okay.
I think I can answer that, Councilman. So, this miscellaneous business, so everything under this portion is council generated. You have some resolutions that council members asked city staff to assist with preparing. It's not on the agenda, so every motion on here is generated by council.
And the money that we're talking about doing, we're not messing with any of the workforce development money with these proposals. All right?
As far as I'm aware,
Workforce development,
because
but
you're,
together.
so the workforce development subcommittee has not
Okay.
made any recommendations or
Thank you.
requests for us.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, the amount of money that if all these were to pass would equal the amount of money that we have left? No?
Say that again. I'm
How,
sorry.
how much in total do we have left for ARPA funds without clawbacks?
But, Ms. Blaine, can you give them a summary of what's remaining?
What was it,
Okay, so
1.7?
we have a total of 2.49 million left and some change. Under youth development, we have 1.62 million, and under workforce development is 875,000. That makes up your 2.49 million.
That answered my question. Thank you.
Councilwoman Sylvia.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt I have 7. So is there a way I can put them all, or do I have to do them one by one?
One by
You
one.
gotta do them
Okay.
one by one, right?
A motion to adopt the ARPA resolution to allocate ARPA funds to the African Cultural Festival Incorporated in amounts not to exceed $178,000 for eligible capital expenses and $50,000 for eligible programming expenses.
There's a motion on the floor. I need a second, please. We've got discussion now. Any questions? Yes.
I support this allocation. However, at no point in any of their requests did they ask for programming dollars. And in their original request or in the conversations I've had with them, so I would rather give them either all capital or the 178 for the capital. That's just my thought.
Anyone else?
Go ahead.
Y'all going back and forth.
I just had to I didn't know. I know I worked on this committee as well, and I just had asked, and I don't know, for more time to look at some of these. I mean, some of them I agree with, and some of them I'm not aware of. So like I mentioned, I just needed a couple, maybe another week or so by next council meeting to go over some of this, because some of them are too broad and I don't have enough information to support some of these, and if they're even a nonprofit or not, so I don't know.
I have a question. Well, I have a concern. I have a problem with passing resolutions when I don't really, I looked at the request and they didn't match the ask. And so I would much rather, I'll be more comfortable if the committee that chose these people, these groups, could give us like a summation. Because what I seen is not what I seen in the ask. So I'm not comfortable with moving any of these resolutions forward. I say within the next couple of weeks. I mean, I should take that back. I am comfortable with some, but maybe in the next, before the next meeting, that group get together and make it a solid, unanimous thing. And then just give us a summary of what we're asking and where you want to spend the money. Yes.
Okay. Let me try to speak to several things at one time. One, I spoke to the president of the African Cultural Festival. He didn't have his information in front of him. The ask was 228. So we can go to the 228, which was asked, but he thought, he didn't have it in front of him. So he asked for the 50 for that. So he can always come to council and ask for 50, and we can go with the program, with the capital for the 228. We can change that to the 228. That's what was asked. And not feeling comfortable, we have been trying to meet and going back and forth with this since September of last year in regards to the drawback dollars for the youth. And, at some point, we have to move forward with this. I didn't know we needed to have a summation of all of these particular entities. If so, we could have done that. And we met on the other day with Guidehouse, Vicky, myself. Councilman Williams was not able to utilize the computer, but he did go over these. We've had these for over a year. And we know about these programs, or we could have looked these programs up, all of us that was in this subcommittee.
That's not true.
We had these, I've got a book that's over 4 inches thick. So maybe 5 inches thick in regards to these programs. But, it's to the council what they want to do.
Right.
But I have these programs ready to move on them. And we've been trying to meet and do this since September of last year, or around about September of last year.
Let me say this. I don't want to point fingers at anybody with this.
And I don't either.
I am asking. I didn't say, I just think that if you want me to agree based on what we've heard this morning, I just need some solid stuff.
Right.
Now, I do have a book, and I did go through and look at them. And a lot of these were entirely different than what the ask was. And for me, that's a problem, because the original thing says one thing, and now we computing somewhere else. No, that's not fair. And so I'm not saying that I'm not agreeing with you,
These are less
Councilwoman.
dollars.
I'm not agreeing that I don't agree with you. I'm saying, I got the information yesterday. I don't know about anybody else. I've got all of this information yesterday.
Right.
And I think in order for me to do my job, I need time.
Right.
And I just heard about a program who was failing. And I've also stated, failure is not an option for us. I'm just saying, that's just my opinion. I'm only one vote,
Right.
okay? I went along with the first crowd. I'm only one vote. So I'm just saying that I would like to have all of these, well, some of these moved to get some more information, because some groups on here are for profit. We're dealing with nonprofits. They're on here for profit.
Right. For profit.
And when you tell me you want more than 50% of this money I give you for administrative costs, I got a problem with that.
Right.
I got a real problem with that. Because even in CBDG, you don't get, administration costs can't be 50,000. That's why I said, if everybody can see what the ask is and an outline of what it's going to be spent on, I'm comfortable with it. So that's just me.
That's fine.
Yes, Councilman Williams, I'm gonna get you, Councilwoman.
Just in full transparency, yes, there was a meeting this week, whatnot, and I have, Councilwoman Marcel and I have talked, and I want to wait a couple of weeks in order to give council an opportunity to review everything. And I say that in full transparency because anytime that we present something for council to vote on, I believe that council should have, regardless of the time that we've been working on something, council should have the opportunity to properly review what's being voted on in order for us to give a good vote, yay or nay. So I'm not opposed to what's being presented. I'm just opposed to us doing it today. I think 2 weeks will be good enough time for us to, everyone to be able to review and then come back and give sound judgment on our vote.
And the group can get together in these 2 weeks, y'all. And come on one accord. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a problem with that. My problem is, well, okay, but I do want to know what is here that is for profit.
I think, you know what?
I need to know what's here for profit.
Okay, we're not gonna go back and forth. I'd rather move this forward
But I would
because
still like to know, you said that,
me and
so
you can
let's
get
know.
together.
Madam
Mayor.
Mayor, you need to talk about the motion that's in front of you.
Okay, yeah, okay.
You've got one motion in front of
We
you.
got a motion on the floor. Yes,
I won't make any
Mr.
more
Councilman
motions.
Flores, we're talking.
Okay.
Mayor, a motion to table this resolution
Yeah,
until a later date.
that's fine. Second.
The motion to postpone
Oh,
until.
to postpone, thank you. Oh, yeah, the table.
I'll second that.
Monique did.
Okay, well, then,
I'm sorry.
Can we amend it to state that once the subcommittee, until after they have a chance to meet, because that's my question is, if we've been trying, Councilwoman Lamar Sylvia keeps saying trying, and I don't want to point fingers, my only question I have is, have all three of you met together with Guidehouse?
Not on Wednesday. I
All
was not
three
in
of you.
attendance.
Okay, that's all, for me, that's the big thing, I don't feel.
Canceling either.
Right.
Okay, moving
It's like I said,
forward.
it's not about point figures, I just, a matter of whether, if you guys haven't met, period.
Moving forward. There's an amendment on, we got how many motions on the floor? Let's be
An
real.
amendment motion, but not a second. I didn't hear a second on that.
Okay.
Second,
On the amendment?
yes.
Okay.
So now which one are we voting on first?
Amendment.
On the amendment.
On the amendment. And the amendment is, Madam Clerk, can you please read that again?
To postpone the motion to approve the resolution stated by Councilwoman Sylvia until after the committee can meet.
With guidance.
Okay, does everybody understand and hear that? Any more discussion? If not, I'm calling for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Now you're back to the main motion as amended to postpone to a later date until the committee can meet with Guidehouse.
Okay. We back to the same one. Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Do we have, I'm sorry,
Well, I don't know if this is where the discussion comes in or what.
well,
We don't have a nay yet.
we're voting. I need, we're voting. And once we start to vote, you can't, it's like I asked the question. Are there any questions? I'm gonna go back and reset it. Is there any more questions? Yes.
We have a committee of,
Mayor,
would this
it's
be a
been, I believe
question?
it's been voted on.
Yeah. Okay,
It's
go
voted,
ahead.
we're done. Done. There just needs to be clarification.
Y'all know what? Y'all making this real confusing. You got all these votes on the thing, and I'm like, what? Okay, come on, Madam Clerk, help me.
You have nothing on the table. You voted on the amendment and the postponement. You're good. You have no
Okay, we
motion
good on that one.
Yes.
Move on.
And so now we have another,
You have nothing pending right now. You're still under miscellaneous business, though.
okay, so we have nothing else pending. We're still under miscellaneous. Does anybody want to try to do another motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we postpone all these resolutions for 2 weeks until we reach.
Just did the one.
That's what we did.
That's what that was.
I didn't hear him say all of
No,
them.
we just, did you say
Let's
all
say
of them or
one.
just the one?
The one that was on.
There are no other ones on the table.
There are no-
There are no other ones on- There are no other ones on the table.
We didn't get that far.
Y'all gonna feed me.
Madam Clerk, it's too early in the morning, y'all. Madam Clerk, where are we at now?
If there
You're
aren't
still
any
under-
other motions by council, we have more presentations.
Yeah, and just for clarification, we're under miscellaneous business for any motions,
Yes.
not just ARPA-related motions.
right.
So if there are any other motions, now would be the time.
Yes.
Let's see.
Is there any other motions that council would like to put on the floor? Is there any other motions? One more time. Is there any other motions? Can we continue?
Yes, now we just need someone to make a motion to hear the presentation on an economic development update and a master plan update that's on your agenda there.
Okay, you heard what she said.
I'll make that motion.
It's been moved and supported
Support.
that we move on to the next presentation.
So, council, then I'm going to release Plant Moran and Guidehouse, so we don't have anything further for them, correct?
I don't know.
Thank
No, I'm
you.
just kidding.
Y'all have any more? Mr. Plant Moran, I'm so sorry that you drove through this blizzard
Right.
for nothing. I know it was.
We gotta do it.
You should stay over. It's gonna be real fun coming up, trust me.
See the snow.
Safe travel.
There's a motion on the floor. Don't I have to get it?
We're all set.
We're good to go.
We all said, okay. It was motion and second, but we didn't vote.
Yeah, you voted.
You voted?
We didn't vote. Went out to say move on to the next group. We didn't vote on that.
No,
We
you-
didn't.
Mayor, you have to take the vote. You had a motion and a second. I didn't hear a vote.
I know, we didn't do it. That's what I'm saying. I need to take a vote. All those in favor with moving on to Cassie?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Goodbye, Plant Moran.
Okay,
That's where all our money goes, since y'all, let me just be honest.
Cassie Zimmerman is going to give an economic development update. She's first up.
All right, so hello, council members, mayor pro temp, city
Hello.
staff, and
Miss
all
Casey.
other visitors today. I'm going to really paint a broad brushstroke of what our economic development or department is working on. So I'm really going to be kind of overall going through some demographics and things and some of our goals from some different studies. And then I'll touch slightly on programs that we're working on, some projects that we're working on, some things that we've done and plans for moving forward. But other presentations that will follow me will go into more depth. So just so you know. If you do have any questions, feel free to interrupt me in the middle if you would like, or I do have a slide at the end for questions also. So to start off, I wanted to go through our population demographics because this is probably the most commonly understood demographics that we have. So the city of Saginaw has been losing population over the last few decades. You can see at our peak in 1960, we were almost at 100,000 people. And then with the last census in 2020, we we went under 50,000 to about 44,000. I also compared a few other communities so that you could see their percentage of change in their population as well. We have typically I compare us to Flint because we have a lot of similar issues, pros, cons about our communities, but they are larger than us. They have, however, from some of the statistics that I'm showing, we're actually ticking above Flint in a few categories. One being population loss, which we do have less population than them, but we have lost a little bit less. Some good news is that Michigan has started changing their trend of population loss, and we're actually gaining a little bit in the state of Michigan. So hopefully Saginaw will be able to capitalize off of that. I did want to tell you also that from our master plan and housing studies, from our master plan update, we did an update of a lot of different studies, and we actually have a model projected to increase our population. And that's really due to the young age of the citizens of the city of Saginaw. We have a lot of teenagers, 20-something and 30-something, so over the next 20 years, we should be having an increase in population strictly because they're having children. We do obviously have some things to deal with in that meantime to make sure that we have the housing stock for them and that we have all of the amenities that people are looking at to keep their families and themselves here in the city of Saginaw. So we're constantly working on improving and making the city to what people want and need. The next statistics I have are our income, and this is where I actually updated these to 2022 numbers, which was the most recent that I could get from the US Census. And we have surpassed our median household income and median family income from Flint's numbers. So that previously had not been the case for quite a few years. And I didn't date back the household income, but before I updated it to 2022, I had 2020 numbers and we were below Flint. So median household income, just so you're aware, that is taking account of the income of just the adults in the household. So those 18 and over, family income includes those 15 and over. So if there's any kids in the household who have jobs, and then per capita income is the average income of a general citizen in the city, anybody. For our unemployment rates, we have not quite returned to pre-pandemic levels, but we're also, we are still making movements. We actually ticked up a little bit, but it's so minor at 0.4% that it hasn't likely made too much of a difference. And comparing that down, we're definitely still high. Hopefully we can continue to get that down. I did, when digging into more of the numbers, we have quite a bit of the workforce or the age range of workforce that is not in the workforce, and they aren't counted into our unemployment numbers strictly because unemployment means that the person is looking for a job, actively applying, going to interviews, searching for a job. So our number really is higher than that 11%. We just have people who aren't looking for jobs. Our top employers in the city. So this chart came from Saginaw Future. These are about a year or two old, so we do need to update these, but they still rang pretty true. Typically, our top employers don't move around too quickly. You can see we have a lot of medical and education facilities in our top 20. So some of Saginaw's largest employers include our hospitals, Covenant, Ascension St. Mary's, and the Veterans Medical Center, as well as Great Lakes Bay Health, Saginaw County Health Authority, and CMU. We also, from the school side, have SVSU's location in downtown, Saginaw ISD, and the Saginaw Public Schools. You can still see some manufacturing and automotive sprinkled in here, but really what we call eds and meds, that's really become the main industries in the city of Saginaw. And that really leads to one of the projects that we're majorly working on, which is the medical diamond. So before I talk about some of the overall goals for that, I wanted to show you our 3 goals that came out of our economic development strategy. So these are broad goals. We do have individual initiatives underneath all of them, but I'm trying to paint with a broad stroke so that you guys are gonna get so much information. I'm not gonna go down into all the weeds with you today. So number 1, linkages. So creating those linkages between our geography. So we have quite a bit of space in the city of Saginaw that we have vacant pockets, we have disjointed neighborhoods and main corridors. So creating those linkages back not only in our geography of when you drive around, but also with our businesses, connections within the community, from both the business and the nonprofit side. Innovation, recognizing and maximizing on existing economic opportunities for growth, innovation, and job and wealth creation. So this really goes back sort of to our income as well and our top employers, mixing those together. We do have a lot of similar industries, but are we really providing the opportunities for folks within that industry to have the education, to have the job promotional opportunities, as well as the education, I think I said that, the education to increase their skills and make it more likely for them to get a promotion. And then talent is right along with that, establishing the workforce pipeline among businesses, educational institutions, and emerging and established workforce. So a project that really touches all of these, that has been the focus of the city, Saginaw Future, county, we have many, many organizations working on this. As you guys know, you've gotten a few updates over the last, probably just over the last 6 months or a year, I guess, when we really started broadcasting about this project. It's kind of hard to see on the slide. There's like a faint blue line. That is really the area that is being looked at for this project. And you can tell even from this aerial, it's really a disjointed area. It's disconnected from downtown. It separates downtown from, we're sort of in the old town area, but we're more in like our parks, and we just have this gap in the middle. And it's been a long process, but we're definitely moving forward. So besides all of the numbers, the money that's coming in, the jobs that are coming in, these are some of the overall economic impacts that are going to have a huge, huge potential catalyst for so many economic opportunities in the future. So a couple of these are exactly the same as what I had on the last slide or the economic development opportunities slide. So the economic opportunities, growth, innovation, job, and wealth creation, just what I was saying. So we have the healthcare here. How do we connect those opportunities with the people who already live here? One of the opportunities that we're seeing is expanding CMU Medical School and bringing the other 2 years. We have Delta in on the mix. We have SVSU in on the mix to make sure that all of our local institutions are able to offer the programs that will directly qualify our citizens to have these jobs and continue through promotional opportunities. We're working with between the schools and the different healthcare industries and the different businesses that are going to go in there to make sure that those pipelines are very clear. We're eliminating barriers to healthcare access and healthcare centers by creating not just a central location, but by creating new resources. We've had really detailed discussions. We're meeting every 2 weeks. Tim and I are included on those meetings. The other week, they have an infrastructure meeting, which Yolanda and Phil Carwat have been involved with. And at each of these meetings, we're fully discussing what are the barriers, what can we do, where are we have a committee that's working just on the health department and mental health area. building, and they're traveling around, seeing what other communities are doing. How are they really solving these barriers and providing the additional resources that communities just like Saginaw need? One of the other big opportunities is to improve access to the Saginaw River. Outside of this square, towards the river, all of that park area that is adjacent to the project area is also being looked at. So you all approved a Studio Gang contract. Studio Gang architects, they are going to be doing a huge concept plan for the entire property, for the entire project. They're also going to do a plan for CMU Medical School and the park. Potoff Park, all of that area. Potoff Park doesn't technically extend all of it, I don't believe, but that entire area. And that's really where we're going to bring in the city, the citizens, you at council, to really decide how we can best improve that park, because that's going to be the piece that really connects us to this project. This is the public part that is owned by the city. It will remain owned by the city. And how can we best utilize that space to not only improve the riverfront, but manage the access, I guess, within that project as well. And that's something that's huge. I mean, obviously, that's come up, access to the river, a million times, and we're gonna see what kind of partnerships we can do to make so that that's a good touch point for us. Some more demographics for you guys. Talking about housing, I'm really glad that George brought up some housing talk this morning already. So we did, as part of the update to the master plan, a housing analysis. And these are some statistics that we have gathered from there. As I said, the population is projected to slightly increase. Most of that is going to be due to younger folks having children, and there's not much of an increase in the need of housing per se, based off of our housing units that we already have. However, there are some recommendations that have come out of this. So you can see the numbers slightly from the number of households that we currently have. The last number was from 2018. I didn't update that one. From the city to the county, the total trade area is just the city and the county together. We have a slight uptick projected, but our average household size has generally been projected to decrease. I did update that number with the 2022, and it had gone up slightly, which is a surprise because that's not typically the trend over the United States as a whole. But it was so minuscule at 0.03%, it really, it's still under 2.5. For our existing housing stock, probably wouldn't be surprised to see the 1-unit detached. That's a single-family home, single home sitting on a lot. That is primarily what the city has. If you look at that chart, I mean, we barely have anything else according to this, which is not necessarily a bad thing at all. That's just the way that the city of Saginaw and our community has developed. The bottom chart actually talks about the number of bedrooms that are in each of these units. So in total, there are 61,030 bedrooms in the city of Saginaw, for a population of 44,202 people. So to me, and from our housing analysis, we are seeing way too big of houses for a majority of people who are living in the city of Saginaw or who want to live in the city of Saginaw, because even the household size for the county and in the state of Michigan is pretty low. We need about 2 bedrooms in most houses. So for those numbers, that gives approximately 1.4 bedrooms per person in the city of Saginaw. While obviously many people want to have an extra bedroom in their house, sometimes that can be an impediment to housing. If you cannot afford to heat that extra room, to maintain that extra space, and it's just strictly not needed. So a lot of people will close up parts of their house in the winter because, especially with our old housing stock, it can be extremely expensive to maintain houses, especially when they're bigger than what you actually need. Furthermore, 93 of the housing units in the city of Saginaw are 50 years old or older, compared to just 16% in the rest of the county. So obviously, new housing is not something, and this is not news, but new housing is not something that the city of Saginaw is flushed with, for sure. But on the good news with affordability, most of our housing that would be considered starting home is at an affordable rate of under $150,000. Affordable in general, from standards. This 11,000 households that are burdened by their rent cost is from the whole county. I would venture to say that a majority of them are likely within the city boundaries, but I could not break down the data to that point. 6% of houses in the city of Saginaw are valued under $100,000, 6% of for sale, compared to 46%. Are valued over 100,000, compared to 64% in the outlying communities. So we know that we have some issues with our home values, our property values, but these are just some facts for you. And then households with incomes over $25,000 per year can generally afford housing in the city of Saginaw. And as we saw, our family and household incomes do range around $30,000 right now, so generally, people can afford a house in the city of Saginaw. Generally.
You said cannot?
Can. Yep. The median household was $35,000, and the median family income, which I would assume most kids aren't helping with the household, but they may, was $44,000. And also, for you to be burdened by your rent costs, that has an asterisk, that means you're paying over 30% of your gross monthly income. Over 30% of what you take home in a month. Our main takeaways from the housing analysis was that demand for housing is not increasing to a level that we need to be concerned about. However, there are underserved markets. So I was saying smaller houses, new housing in general, and senior housing. As all over the world, we're having, people are living longer and longer because of our healthcare systems. And they also would like shrinking, smaller houses, 2 bedrooms probably for most senior citizens, or 1. There are inequities in the housing market and impediments to some households to find quality housing of their choice. And a lot of that, again, is based off of there is not new housing, it's not that the housing isn't affordable to buy, it's not affordable to maintain. Bob is going to go over the master plan, so I'm not going to focus on what the master plan necessarily calls out for some of these housing issues, but our master plan was very well done, and we have a lot of goals, and Bob's been doing wonderful work to implement the goals and strategies that came out of that. So, some of the things that we're doing. Because we are an RRC community, redevelopment ready, certified community, we have access to pre-development assistance dollars. So this is a new program that just started. We get $35,000 a year when available, as available on a first come, first served basis. So I've been trying to take advantage of this as much as we can. So some of our priority sites were the first places that we're going to go to, of course, and city-owned business, or city-owned buildings. So 505 Millard, or the former Jefferson Apartments, you remember, hopefully was sold earlier this year. And that was potentially influenced by this pre-development assistance, I hope. We paid for survey, it actually goes through, it's an MEDC program, but then it is funded through MML. So MML actually pays for these programs. So we had surveys completed for the Jefferson Apartments. We had radar scans for elevations and floor plans. Those are both from the Jefferson Apartment up on the screen. We were then able to put the building out to bid, include these packets of here's already some things that we already got done, please show us your programming. You can really figure out better numbers that way and put together your pro forma better if you know what you're going to do. That work costs about the full 35,000, not quite, maybe 30,000. So that's something that we can take off of developers' plates. And it's all in that beginning. A lot of this pre-development stuff is, if we do a development agreement with folks, we'll agree to sell the building for a cheaper price, but you have to put all your money into figuring out if this project is actually gonna work for you. And then if it doesn't, well, that sucks. So goodbye, we'll move on to the next one. So hopefully, if we can do enough of this pre-development to at least decrease the cost, we have more people looking into these buildings, and hopefully we will get to a point where we can make it easy enough to go forward with the project. So 505 Millard was sold. The developer has started doing some cleanup. I don't know if maybe Bill's driven by because it's in his neighborhood. They've started doing some cleanup around the outside. This project is moving forward. We haven't gotten any plans or anything through the city yet, but we're in constant communication. I think that will be a positive impact. And then the Behringer Building was our second one. We completed survey work. The scans, it will be similar to the same scans of all of the floor plans, the elevations. They are not quite complete yet, but that is underway. And then we are currently working with another developer on East Genesee who is working on a housing project, and this program is going to fund some structural evaluation of some buildings on East Genesee.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
On the Ballinger Building, do you have anybody interested in that building?
Yes.
Are you talking with them? Okay.
We don't have any contract signed or agreement signed, but interest.
Okay.
Yep. And if anybody was to take on the building or even these are public documents now. If anybody's interested in even looking at the Behringer Building, once we have these scans, if you would like them. And that's one of the benefits of this development, or of this assistance, is that it's for the community. We're the ones who prioritize the projects and pick what is going to get funded, and then any report that comes out of it comes directly back to us. So even if 505 Millard doesn't work out, ends up selling to somebody else, we still have that, and I can hand it to the next developer. And same with the Behringer. So, along with the housing strategy that recommended new housing, we are also looking at rehabilitated housing, of course, as always. There are a lot of different programs going on that we've kind of mentioned a few through ARPA. George talked about the Housing Commission, so there's a lot of different community partnerships going on. One that will be coming next 2 weeks, I guess, is a neighborhood enterprise zone application. So that's kind of what the background is on here. Covenant Neighborhood, is working with Habitat for Humanity and Covenant Healthcare to put together some new housing and rehabilitated housing in the Covenant neighborhood. One of the incentives that we can bring, which I think Bill brought this up maybe a few months ago. I was like, oh, wow, you're going to be happy when we're already working on that. So this provides an ad valorem property tax benefit to anybody who owns their home, is within these locations once we designate them as a neighborhood enterprise zone, and then they will be able to get tax benefits. And like I said, that's for building a new home, so that's why Covenant and Habitat are really working together so that they're establishing these in neighborhoods where they're going to build new homes, but then also encourage the neighborhood to fix up the rest of their homes as well. Take advantage of this.
Can I stop you right there? Because you addressed me a couple of times. So this is a really exciting project, and I attended the meeting with Covenant Hospital and the engineering firms that were there. These neighborhood enterprise zones are something that we have in our ordinance already. So I'm glad to see that we're taking advantage of them, because they're basically a tax incentive for the residential areas, if people aren't familiar with what she's talking about right now. So we talk about OPRAs for commercial. These are incentives for neighborhoods that can actually have freeze taxes and stuff. So thank you for working that out, because that was mentioned in the meeting. Wade, Wayne Hoffman and I were talking about that.
Yep.
And you were there, I think you were there too, so thank you.
Probably, and Wayne's really kind of leading that too.
And this is a commitment from Covenant Hospital to this neighborhood.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and really, they're not the only ones, if I want to skip ahead to the community collaborators. I mean, we have churches, community centers, neighborhood associations, nonprofit groups, just leaders of private businesses. We have had more, and yes, I've only been working in the city for 7 years, so I guess I can't say than in the last 20 years or so, but we have a lot of interest and people who are really working on trying to figure out how we can meet the needs of our residents in existing homes as well as build new homes. So we have quite a few different groups that we're meeting with regularly. We also have some new programs through the city's furnace and roof program, obviously. They're going to have a window program soon. And there's some things that my department is looking at as well. With George, I may end up pulling you into some of these meetings. We're kind of in a information gathering at this point, but looking at all of the different organizations who are trying to do housing, what can the city do to make it as, I guess, eliminate as many barriers as we can. We have some good ideas, but to really develop the program, it's gonna take some time. So maybe at the next strategic planning meeting, I'll have some really good updates if things work out the way I hope.
Excuse me, Cassie, on that point, and I'm gonna refer this to the councilman too. Are you guys familiar with housing programs where you can turn a housing voucher into a mortgage payment?
I'm not.
Yes, so, but you also separating the HUD and the MISHDA program. So when we look at the Saginaw Housing Authority, that is HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. MISHDA has its own equivalent, which is through the state of Michigan, and they operate on their own authority. So within the city of Saginaw, I think it's good to designate which is HUD, which is MISHDA, because HUD only has, I believe, 5 or 6 facilities. But there are other facilities that use vouchers that are through MISHDA, and that is through the state. So, but I just want to say, since you placed it to me, thank you for this presentation. I'm so happy to hear what you're sharing.
So what I'm saying is,
But yes, I would say yes.
say that maybe if we can get some people in housing, it was one thing to rent, paying $1,100, $1,200 a month for rent, and you can get a mortgage for $800. You know, we need to inform our residents that they can own a home. And when you own a home, you create wealth for generational wealth. So this is what we need to be communicating to the people that live in the city of Saginaw.
Yes.
And I hope that, since that's your department, maybe you can look that up a little bit more and find out how we can turn housing vouchers into mortgage payments.
Sure.
And that will help people out in the long run, make Saginaw a more profitable place with people paying taxes on good homes.
Yep, and I should say, as part of this fact-finding, information gathering, we're looking at a bunch of different sectors, anybody who's in housing development, and that includes banks who are loaning the money. That includes the CDBG department. So we're going to be looking at what can we do, because there are other examples around the state. Kalamazoo is one who I actually have a meeting with next week to learn about their Attainable Home Partnership program. And we may be going down. We're talking to Habitat for Humanity. I'm taking a tour of one of their new homes next week. The banks, I've already met with some architects. We need to meet with home builders associations, all of those types of people to figure out really what is it? Realtors, what is it that we need to do to move that needle? And then it will be applying for grants, I'm sure, so. Because it's gonna be money.
Hey, I would appreciate it if you can let us know something about the housing voucher program and how they can help out with some of the developers.
Sure, I'll look into that for you.
And then we got all these schools around here that's sitting here rotting out. I know we can turn these into housing. And ain't nobody doing it in the city of Saginaw, and they doing it all over the country.
But they're not our buildings.
I
And
know.
they've got to be willing to sell.
I know whose buildings they are. What I'm saying is that we need to even talk with them about some housing to get some developers maybe interested in that. See if we can get them some tax breaks and some grants to help turn those schools. I mean, they're doing it on the west side, turn them into senior citizen housing, but here in the Saginaw, they rotting in like crazy, you know. So hopefully you can give us a report on that too. Thank you so much.
Okay,
I know you want to move on, but real quick, sorry, Mary.
Yeah, real quick.
You mentioned different funding sources too. Councilman Copeland mentioned MISTA. MISTA also has loans for these properties. And Councilman Balls, I kind of live with the person on the school board, so we'll have a nice conversation to Columbus today. And trust me, he is working on some of this stuff. He's working with his team, so thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, two more parts in here, just with our housing study, and housing strategies, and I'm not gonna go into them much because Bob is going to talk about it more. But updating our zoning ordinance. Really, the zoning ordinance is a way that we can put the master plan's vision into practice. So it includes all of the requirements for building. It includes the different zones within the city. It can encourage a mix of compatible uses. We can have different variety in building types. It promotes flexibility with land and buildings. One of our goals with the update is to look at schools. That's one of our priorities, those different sites that are hard to develop. How do we make so that zoning at least is not an impediment to that? And then assembling and marketing vacant properties. So, again, I'm calling out Bob all the time. Thanks to our leadership of our great city planner, Bob Goleen, the city was able to receive EPA funding to conduct Phase 2 environmental reports for both the fairgrounds property and the TRW property, just kitty corner from them on Genesee. And those studies were able to help us then move forward with the demolition that's going to happen on the fairgrounds this year. And with TRW, that is owned by the land bank, and we're working very closely with them to help clean up those sites. Those are two of our priority sites, huge vacant properties. I think the fairgrounds is about 50 acres or 40 acres, and TRW is 50 acres, something like that. Yeah, so we're really looking, besides the Medical Diamond being a big spot, I mean, those are two other locations that we're really focusing on. And then lastly, I just wanted to share with you all that we are redevelopment ready, certified already. We're actually at the end of our first 5-year term of certification, and we are ready to be recertified. So I kind of tried to put together a list of all the things so that you can see what we've been working on the last 5 years. We have a committee within the city who works to make sure that we're constantly up to date and aligning with the best practices of RRC. And we'll be back in a month or two to celebrate being recertified. All right. And then, yeah, if you have any other questions.
Any questions? Councilwoman Sylvia.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation. When you were talking about housing strategies, and at your last bullet, you talked about structural evaluation assistance for additional housing projects on East Genesee. Can you elaborate on that some? Because you kind of just, and I just wanted to know a little bit more about that.
I don't think that there's really any secrets about this. I would assume Dolores McKinney has possibly talked to most of you by now.
Not me, I don't know,
Okay.
even know who that is.
Okay, so I think she would be fine with me sharing. She is in the process of purchasing almost the entire block of 800 East Genesee. It's down right, basically the edge of downtown. We're right coming into downtown by Roosevelt Austin. It's kind of a strange block. So she actually has been working with AKT Peerless on some environmental assessments of the property. She owns 3 or 4 of the buildings on that block. And so now she's going to be having these structural analysis done she would like to not demo anything and revitalize the buildings where they stand, but it could come back where there's some things that are just structurally infeasible for her to keep. So she's doing this as a precaution to make sure that it's part of that pre-development stuff. And that's another cost that we're going to be funding there's 4 buildings that's going to be analyzed for $7,000. So that's just something we can do to help a developer.
And she wants, she is or wants to have housing through that area?
Yes, she's
Okay.
planning mixed-use development.
And
So
what is
it'll
that-
be a
her name
mixture of
again?
housing and commercial, probably a restaurant, maybe some other store. It
But
kind of
mostly
depends on the
housing?
market. Mostly housing.
And what is that name again, her name again?
Dolores McKinney.
Okay, thank you.
What, the south side?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, Cassie, thank you for your presentation. This really, I really enjoyed the presentation, seeing the future, seeing where we're going when it comes down to housing stock. The first one question I have is, regarding our development, do we currently have ordinances that speaks to apartment buildings or structures like that? An ordinance that speaks to how many of those spots have to be mixed use, or I don't want to say public housing, but affordable housing, because the big thing about the data that you proved, a lot of these numbers are the working class. They're our neighbors, our teachers, they qualify for affordable housing. So do we currently have an ordinance that speaks to, when we have these new projects for apartment buildings, that a percentage has to be focused towards affordable housing?
We do not have any kind of requirement for that. It depends, sometimes if there's certain incentives used for projects like that, those incentives will have those requirements.
Awesome. And then the second thing I have is just clarification, Councilman Balls, for those who qualify or you are a part of the Housing Authority, Saginaw Housing Authority, we have that program, it's called the Self-Sufficiency Program. And with that program, you actually have to apply, there's some classes you have to go through, and as you go through that program, you're building escrow. So the amount of things you go through, you're building escrow. So when you graduate from the program, that fund, those funds are given to you, whether it be for education, whether it be for you for a down deposit. We currently have that available through our Saginaw Housing Authority. We just don't have as many people who partake in the program because the program is strict. But and Michigan has it as well. So I just wanted to give the name of what the program he's speaking to. It's the Family Self-Sufficiency Program.
Okay.
You want to know about it? I'll get you the information.
Yeah, because, can I?
Need to be out.
Yeah, do people know about the program?
No.
Well, we send it out to our housing authority, but because of the requirements that we have a great start, but our data shows they start and then sometimes it's the consistency, but it is a program that's available, and anyone, if you're listening, if you are part of the Saginaw Housing Commission, you have a Section 8 voucher, residents who in the Saginaw Housing Commission public housing, or you participate in the Saginaw Housing Commission Section 8 Choice Voucher Program, you have access and can participate. And I encourage you to get down to our facility and meet with one of the coordinators, the FSS coordinator, to talk about that process.
I just like to say this, we are the billboards of the city. Wherever we go, we represent the city. Same thing with the committees that you sit on and the boards. That's good information. I heard you say earlier you want us to start working with the Housing Commission. Only way we can work is if we know what's there to be offered. So I need you to spearhead some of this. I mean, don't tell us when we get in a meeting what's happening. It needs to be out there, period. Saginaw, we now have a stand. And kudos to the staff for telling the city, you come in this city, you know everything about what's going on in this city now. They've got brochures everywhere telling you, Saginaw Economic Development, Ms. Keisha's program, Cassie's program. There is so much information out in this city about us. We need to do the same thing with our boards and commissions. If you sit on a board of commission, share your information. Every meeting I ask, any reports, and that's what I'm talking about. So thank you so much, because I really didn't know, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know nothing about the new program. I knew Section 8, but all of us know Section 8. Okay? Any other questions for Ms. Cassie? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to dismiss her without you saying something.
It's okay, and I'm gonna switch it up, and I'm gonna have Bob Goleen, the planner, give an update on the master plan, since a lot of Cassie's presentation referred back to him.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bob.
Please do not address me as the great urban planner.
You do have people that are upset and are uproar, so.
What I'd like to do is update you, give you a summary of the accomplishments, the Saginaw's 2022 master plan. We're arriving at or passing the one-year anniversary of the adoption of that. Within that, there were 3 goals that we had. Improve neighborhood stability, enhance sense of place, strengthen the community viability, improve and enhance the public services. So then, also within each of those goals, we broke it down into action plans. And each action plan helps us kind of keep track of the goals. And so I'm going to go through each of the action items that were identified for that first year that we've been through, that we've been working on. And that within that first goal, we have, the first one is to prioritize some redevelopment areas. And so there were 4 areas that we looked at. The northeast neighborhood, the fairgrounds neighborhood, a portion of the Cathedral District north of Atwater, and the Covenant neighborhood near and around Covenant Hospital. So for the northeast neighborhood area, we chose that because of the real potential that it holds. To date, we have developed some broad concepts, not real specific yet, but it's based on the proximity to the major streets, the amount of vacant land that's in there, and some input from the neighborhood representatives. And further study really needs to be done in there, because if you look at the northeast area, it's broken up into 2 halves really, separated by the CSX Railroad. So areas north of that, between North Washington and say 14th Street, is one area that we would like to look at, and then the area south of CSX to 675. And within there, there's distinct pockets that we would need to look at. There's some residential, there's somewhat of a little business corridor with the churches on 5th and 6th Street, et cetera. Likewise, there's some large parcels of vacant land that's owned by the land bank that we can use to assemble for some development. So for example, STARS has been talking about the Potter Street Station and some of the things that they would like to do. What we would need to do is look at the zoning for that area and see what we could do to provide some flexibility and for mixed uses. So if that development occurs, for example, we'd have to give some consideration to the impact on North Washington, and as well as the Wadsworth corridor along 675. The Fairgrounds neighborhood, there's several areas of focus there. The Fairgrounds property, the TRW property along East Genesee, the gateways coming in, so East Genesee, Dixie Highway, that sort of thing is one gateway, and then M46 coming in is the other. And likewise, the neighborhood would like to see a grocery store return to the area. So the current focus is the Fairgrounds property, and as you're aware, that ARPA money was dedicated towards demoing the buildings that are already there for future use. Earlier last year, we partnered with Saginaw Valley State University's Geography Department to conduct a study of a portion of the Cathedral District neighborhood, and we looked at clusters within that neighborhood that kind of shape and form the identity of it. So, for example, St. Vincent Park and Weedock Park were identified as possible placemaking areas for events and gatherings. The historic home clusters within there that are important assets to be celebrated and protect, while trying to encourage some infill within those vacant lots in between there, that can complement the forums. And then the larger areas of vacant properties that exist there are possible infill options like live-work buildings, row houses, duplexes, quadplexes that maybe complement the form and the look of that neighborhood. And then likewise, the influence of the downtown and East Genesee corridor, commercial activities play a role now and in the future, especially with the medical diamond being proposed. That certainly is going to influence that neighborhood. So all of these options need some sort of revision of zoning or zoning ordinance to accommodate those proposed changes. We talked to the neighborhood about possibly utilizing some of the subzones of the riverfront mixed-use area and bumping into the Cathedral District to give us some more opportunities for different forms of construction and whatnot. And then, as Cassie mentioned, the Covenant, I don't know where I'm supposed to press this. The Covenant neighborhood is also a focus, and they're pursuing the neighborhood enterprise zones to encourage walk-to-work housing and that sort of thing. Within the master plan, there's also areas that were identified that we need further study. These represent abandoned and some disinvestment. They require us to look at the range of appropriate building and construction forms to help us encourage redevelopment. We need to look at new zoning classifications perhaps that permit the kind of flexibility necessary to reverse this disinvestment. And then in that same vein, there are these vacant and underutilized properties that include the vacant schools and the vacant and abandoned industrial sites, the fairgrounds property, the abandoned property like Gertner's Nursery on Brockway. These are examples that require us to kind of look at these properties differently to accommodate some development, but at the same time lessen any impact that they're going to have on the neighborhood. The next strategy, the amount of vacant land within the city are scars of disinvestment, but this represents opportunities for new development. Nearly 93% of the housing stock in the city is over 50 years old, compared to just 16% of the rest of the county. Most new construction in the past 10 years has taken place outside the city limits. We need to reverse this trend. So all of the items that I just talked about here really kind of point to the need to revise our outdated zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance is the city's most important tool to guide the master plan vision. It provides a legal basis for supporting and improving the ways in which built environment impact the public realm, encouraging the mixing of compatible uses, allowing for greater variety of building types, promoting flexibility to encourage the redevelopment of vacant and underutilized land and buildings. And likewise, the process should be clear, transparent, and include community input. Process and resulting code would be equitable and accessible and reduce the number of zoning classifications. So last month, you all approved a contract to engage with Giffords Webster to rewrite our zoning ordinance. And we're fortunate to be working with them because their innovative approach. And so we're looking at new structure, hyperlinks of which our current zoning ordinance has, but this would be a lot more user-friendly, updating graphics and updating the formatting. Likewise, we'd also like to revise some of the zoning classifications, perhaps eliminating some and combining others into new zoning classes. So currently, we have 18 distinct zoning classes. and if you include the 6 riverfront mixed-use subzones. In the end, we have a hybrid, in the end, we will have a hybrid ordinance that includes both traditional zoning and more flexible form-based code to address those areas previously discussed. So just let me give you an example. If you were to, say, go through and look for or research the R1 single-family residential, you would look at our code, and you would go through and you'd see the purpose and the principal uses, et cetera, et cetera. Then you page down and you look at the permitted uses after special approval. You get the site plan review information, and then the standards for those, that zone, okay? Then you have to go way down to the bottom of the zoning ordinance to find the schedule of, and footnotes of how to develop it. So then you gotta find this chart, you gotta go across and see all those different items on there to determine how best to build on that site. Then you gotta go throughout various parts of the zoning ordinance to find various things like off-street parking, accessible, or accessory buildings, fences, et cetera. So it's just, it's confusing, and it's confusing to the individuals trying to find that information. I get calls all the time from architects asking me, where do I find this? Where do I find that? And so we need to clean that up. And we need to have it accessible for anybody to go on the website and see that. Now, the zoning ordinance that we're proposing, that Giffords-Webster has, is called Clear Zoning Format. And so this is an example of R1 single-family residential. You'd see it on 2 pages, right in front of you. It's got the graphics, shows you all those things, and then each one of these blue subtitles here are the hyperlinks that you can go to for any particular area. So you can find things very quickly. So the time frame to complete that is hopefully fall of this year.
I have a question right quick.
Yeah.
Is this presentation going to be on our webpage? Because I can't speak for everybody else, but this little bitty writing is killing me. Is this presentation going to be on, is it going to be on our webpage? Who can answer me?
Yeah, we can put it on the webpage.
Zoning code.
I think that we need to, because I'm even watching people in the audience when they look at this like, and see, at least we can blow ours up. And you guys, I don't want you to strain, I want you to actually understand
Well,
what we need to do.
as we go through updating the zoning ordinance, there's actually going to be some public input and things like that, that
You still need to see it in black and white, Mr. Bob, okay? Me and you been down that road. We still need to see it in black and white. I'm just asking, it would be nice to get all of these presentations online on our page so that we are transparent. So, I'm sorry, I just want to say that because this writing is killing me.
So then wrapping up goal number 1, that includes continued focus on the city's main asset, which is the riverfront. Placemaking means creating public places that strengthen the connections between people in these places. So this is an example of the Riverfront Gateway project that was designed and developed by the Riverfront Development Commission, and that's just an example. That's going to be located in the downtown area across from the Great Lakes Crossing building near the SVRC Marketplace. And that's going to create a space that can be used to gather various functions. So the project is funded by a combination of privately raised funds and some ARPA dollars, and the majority of this project should be completed by the time the Memorial Cup comes around. The next goal is strengthening community viability, encouraging private development to strengthen the community's viability. So we were able to receive EPA funding to conduct, Cassie mentioned all this, to conduct phase 2 environmental reports on the Fairgrounds property and the TRW property. And that now gives us an idea and extent of the contamination on the TRW site as well as the hazardous materials that we needed to provide for the contractor for the demolition of those buildings. Then likewise, as Cassie mentioned, the Behringer Building and 505 Millard were put on the RRC website and marketed. And as we all know, 505 Millard was closed on, and then as Cassie mentioned, we are talking to some people about the Behringer Building as well. And then the other process is taking city properties that we have that we haven't really been doing anything with, and transferring those to the land bank so that they can all be assembled and provided to developers if they're looking for it. It gives us that flexibility. And then the final goal here relates to improving and enhancing public services. This action plan includes continuing focusing on that main asset, the riverfront. So this past year, the Riverfront Development Commission installed these markers that were placed along the river depicting the locations of the sawmills. So after today, you can put your skis on and go down that trail and look at these markers. They're actually very, very neat. They give you a lot of history of the community. In 2023, we dedicated the Iron Bell Trail up to, I guess, basically Ojibwe Island. And the Iron Bell Trail, if you're not familiar with that, that's a trail that goes from the farther western tip of the UP and goes all the way down to Detroit, and it goes right through Saginaw. And so I feel as though that's a good thing to try and encourage people to come and visit Saginaw. That was completed, so the next phase of that will be taking part of that, coming off of the Iron Bell Trail and then going on to the Center Road Bridge and then connecting that with the Headwaters Park on the other side of the river there. And then eventually we're planning on connecting that with the Saginaw County Rail Trail system. And then the final phase of that future plan would be to finish the northern connection that would take it through the Iron Bell Trail through the downtown area, over the Johnson Street Bridge, and then out towards Carlton. And then likewise, bringing in some of the neighborhoods and connecting those in with that trail. So that's all I have.
Do you have any questions, anybody? Yes, Councilwoman Sylvia.
You mentioned about the vacant schools, and also Councilman Balls mentioned vacant schools. Quite a number of vacant schools. So as a city, what, if anything, what can we do? What are we doing? What, is there a proposal to do anything? I know we don't own the schools, but I mean, we can only take so much of these schools just sitting in our neighborhoods. I mean, like, are we assessing them any kind of dollar amounts? Are we saying, hey, we need this move, we need it fixed, we need you to do something with these buildings? What are we saying, if anything?
I can, so.
Please do.
That is probably a really good topic for the city-county school liaison meeting. And they do have, Mayor Pro Tem did ask for the superintendent for an update on the properties. And they did have a demolition plan for some of them, I recall from the millage, but I don't know how that's proceeding. So he could probably provide that committee an update. We can assist when something comes up. Cassie and I did talk to a nonprofit developer about the schools. We encourage them. But as the mayor said, we don't own them, so we can't sell them to them. But we can assist in those manners. As far as public safety, We recognize that those schools can be an issue for public safety, so the fire department has inspected them where possible and provided to the school district requirements for making those buildings safe and secure, not only for the public, but for our firefighters. The way that some of them are now, if there was a fire, we probably could not even enter them. So we're working with the schools on doing that. We've met with the superintendent, the facilities director, and they have a punch list that we've provided to them.
Are we requiring them to maintain the facilities to, to a certain degree, besides just a fire, like, even just putting fences around them to maybe keep our children out, or,
Yeah, I don't know if we have the authority to do that.
we can't?
Unless,
Yeah, our zoning ordinances, they're specifically exempt by state law, so even our zoning ordinance doesn't apply to school buildings.
Very nice. Okay, thank you.
We got a meeting next week. We have a report probably before we get back to the next city council meeting, I think.
They get away with too
Yeah, we meet
much.
next Thursday, if I may. I did ask that question, I think it was the last meeting that we had. The answer we were given was that there are, and I've met with the superintendent just in general to try to see which buildings were salvageable. There are several of them that, obviously, if you have an unlimited amount of money, any building is, not beyond rehabilitation, but several of them need to be demolished, and I don't think there'd be a whole lot of disagreement about that. So, because the cost of the new high school and everything else, they've made changes to their plans to save money and whatnot. I believe they said that the demolition of the buildings were being forecasted like to 2 to 3 years out. So we have folks in the neighborhoods who are going to have to deal with these buildings, even if they are going to come down. I did broach the topic of, maybe we can try to market them, but, if there are some that are salvageable, put a for sale sign in front and see what kind of bites you get. We did that with a few different buildings, where we had a realtor offer his services and we listed a house, and we got it sold and it's occupied, currently, but, we need to probably prevail upon our counterparts on the board and, see what their thoughts are, but encourage them to work with us on this.
Do you have maybe a list of the ones that are possibly salvageable?
I probably could find it if I don't have it. I know like Heaven Rich is like an option. I know that that's a place that was built with the specific intent of it being potentially turned into a medical facility, and that they designed it specifically so, or for housing at some point. But it was specifically designed with the intention of someday potentially being, but I think that North School is something that's viable, and I know we've got the Historic District Study Group assembled for that, but, those are clear-cut governmental ways we can signal to them that we have a vested interest in what they're doing with those properties. I just don't know how many of those other schools are, they might not be historically valuable, I'm not sure.
Thanks.
Just a comment, I'll tag on to what Mayor Pro Tem is saying, Councilwoman Sylvia. The study even on the other school, like North School, that does then open, if they can designate that could open up for other potential funding issues under the Certified Local Government Program that I talked about and brought into the city. But I will definitely talk to the trustee today, and I know Dr. Roberts is receptive to ideas. I've been in some, not had the conversation, but I've heard some of the results. So I'm going to try and look into this a little bit more, and feel free to give Board Member Rooker a call. He'll love to talk. He loves to talk to you about this, especially when it comes to housing and repurposing some of these schools. But like Mayor Pro Tem said, there are some that are already that are the roof's got issues. Even the one next to my house, which is the El Centro Middle School. And like the manager said, securing these buildings so people can't get in, because we actually had that issue. And we didn't realize that there was about 20 people living in there. We wondered what the noises were. We just didn't see any of the traffic. So we also have to make sure that these buildings are safe so that people cannot enter the building as well. So there's a few different variables going on here, so I just wanted to share that with you real quick. And feel free to call me if you have any more questions.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Mr. Bob, we want to thank you. Again, I need everybody to understand, it's not that we don't want to work with the school board, we want to work with them. We know that we can transform, I hear Councilman Boss say it all the time, we can transform some of these schools into some apartment living, but they got to work with us, okay? And the city is not trying to inherit any more debt that we got to pay out. So we're not looking at buying, we're looking at trying to see if we can get some investors. And we have had investors who wanted to buy those buildings, and they were too high. I live in front of a school, they said, that's one of the schools that they won't sell. And I'm like, why not? You don't cut your grass. You know, in a minute, the buildings is gonna fall through. But they say that they've got 6 or 7 schools have a solid foundation, and I'm trying to figure out where they at. Because either Bailey been sitting open for 30-plus years. So that's where we are. City manager, can we take a break? Can we go to lunch now? Or
Yeah,
no?
we can break for lunch. The sandwiches won't be here for another 10 or so minutes, but if you want to take a break now, that's
Do we
good.
have a 10-minute activity to knock off the agenda?
Well, we ahead of the agenda.
Like motions to, we could just eat and leave. I'm just saying. I mean, we got, you know.
Take a bathroom break.
Right, we could do
Okay,
appointments of board.
There's more presentations.
Oh, there's
Oh,
more.
there's
We've got
more
2 more presentations.
I know. So I'm saying, if we start them now, they got cut off by a certain time because we hungry.
They got a half an hour.
They
They got a half an hour. We don't start lunch until
We could do the
30.
other business, though.
Well,
We are under
where I'm
miscellaneous.
at is that we're so far
I want to know
ahead.
how long is it till lunch is here?
Let's knock something out.
Right.
I was gonna say, we could do
Let's
the
one of
appointments
these.
of boards and commissions.
Ms. Keisha, we don't mean to rush you, but you next on program. So, Keisha next on program, so that means Keisha knows she got 15 minutes. I'm joking, Keisha.
Under economic development.
Keisha is the director of the SCDC.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
It's not, good afternoon. I stand to be corrected.
Greetings. My name is Keisha Smith. I am the Saginaw Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Saginaw. SCDC provides commercial lending for small businesses located in the City of Saginaw. Today, we will be reviewing our annual report for 2023. So the council members have a copy, but if you're in the audience and you'd like a copy, there are some copies in the back on the table. Again, SCDC provides commercial lending to small businesses located in the city of Saginaw. We are a resource hub for entrepreneurs and small businesses looking to grow their business, to take their business to the next level. If you're looking for help with that business plan, or you're looking to connect or network with some of your fellow entrepreneurs, SCDC has created that experience. SCDC has many success stories. We have a few that are listed in our annual report. So I would like to share with you some of our success stories, if it isn't traditional SCDC clients, or we had our EDI grant, which stands for the Economic Development Initiative, that we dispersed during 2023. So first up on our list, we have Loyalty Solid, which is located inside the SVRC Marketplace. We have MH&D Catering, which is one of our local food trucks that you may see out at AutoZone on Bay Road occasionally through the year. We have Essex Energy, which is a power restoration company that is based here in Saginaw inside of CMURC. We have IXL, which is a CNA training course where our community can receive certification for CNA if you're looking for a CNA certification. So we do have something local that speaks to that. We have Creole Queens, which is located inside of the SVRC Marketplace, offering those Louisiana gumbo cuisines locally here. We have Critical Personnel Rescuer, which is a CPR certification course that is offered here. So if you're a CNA or you're someone in the medical field and you're looking for CPR certification, you may access that in our community as well. We have Divine Taste of Chicago offering Chicago hot dogs and different treats. We have Fisher Family Funeral Home, which is located locally here, one of our funeral homes amongst our community that is funded through SCDC. We have Great Giant, which is located at 3216 Sheridan, which is our local supermarket that we have here in our community. Great resource for produce and things of that nature and in food items. We have El Perlito, who has been a historian in our community over 50 years. That was funded through SCDC, and they are too located inside the SVRC marketplace. We have Strauss Hopkins, which is located in Old Town. If you're a small business or entrepreneur and you're looking for some business space, Strauss Hopkins can definitely help you. We have Trinity Creations Photography, which is one of our most recent things to do, entertainment pieces here in the city of Saginaw, which is a photography service as well as a selfie shop, which is something new and local to our community in the Old Town District as well. We have Morning Star Detail Shop, which is a car wash located just close to here to City Hall. Here in our community. So I would like to challenge you to support some of our SEDC clients, be it traditional or EDI clients. I just wanted to highlight them to say that we have a lot of product, we have a lot of services here amongst our community. So please, please, please shop local, support local. As well as if you turn the page, you'll see our SEDC loan programs. So what SEDC offers, we offer a couple of loan products that we offer on a yearly basis. We offer our micro loan, where small businesses have the opportunity to borrow up to $35,000, or our macro loan, which you have the opportunity to borrow up to $220,000. So if you're a small business and you're located in the city of Saginaw, we have two programs that we run year-round. Please share that information if you know anyone who's interested or needing funding for their small business. The next thing is we have our Small Business Expo, which we highlighted our 10th year this year. We had a great success. Our theme for this year was, in 2023, was Taste of Saginaw. And we blocked off Water Street. We had a mural designed on Water Street. If you pass by, you'll see it still there as we speak. We had about 75 plus vendors. We had a awesome turnout from our community. We want to thank our community. We want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank our artists who designed and executed the mural that is created there on Water Street. So we are just excited about that. We're still on a high from our Small Business Expo, and we're looking for a great turnout this year as well with our Small Business Expo. So SEDC also have a section where we would like to highlight our media and marketing amongst SEDC. SEDC has been highlighted through 2023 on the Joyce Harbin Show, the Mahante on the Air Show with Larry Rodauty, the Michigan Banner, M Live, Facebook, WNEM TV5, as well as we have solidified a constant contact group, which is an email group where we have over 535 contacts. And we send out all of our upcoming events and highlights for our communities, so everyone who comes into SEDC or who comes in contact with us is added to that constant contact group. So if you're interested, you can definitely give us your information and be added to that group so you can receive updates and highlights for what SEDC has to come. So we have some affiliation. We're chamber members. We're affiliated with Cosby. We're affiliated with the International Economic Development Council, which is the IEDC, where I am actually studying to become EDC certified. I have one more course, and I will have completed the course concentration for the IEDC certification, where I can become EDC certified. So we're excited about that. We are a member of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. We partner with SBDC, the Small Business Development Center. I know it's a lot of acronyms. We also partner with CMURC, which is our ecosystem, our small business ecosystem that's located inside the SBRC marketplace. If you're a small business and you need some office space to rent or something of that nature, or you need a physical business address maybe to get funding from SCDC, which is one of our requirements, CMURC is definitely a great place to be. And SEDC has a office space over at CMURC, so we're there every Wednesday. So if you're ever in the marketplace or at CMURC, stop and see us. We're there every Wednesday from 8 to 4:30. I'd also like to highlight our finances for the year. For the year, as you know, it takes time, it takes effort to make the communication, make the contact. There's a lot of reach, there's a lot of contact with SEDC new loans. So for the year, we've had Trinity Creations who funded through SEDC, as I spoke for previously. But I think the relationship, the communication, the connection has to be made with SEDC in order to execute that funding source. So please, 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 if you know anyone who's interested or anyone who needs funding, please direct them our way. We've had a couple of loans who have paid off in 2023, Dawn of a New Day and Falafel Hut. We also executed the Economic Development Initiative Grant, which is, we like to call it the EDI. So we had 62 applicants, and then we were able to award 27 recipients, dispersing about $235,000 with that EDI grant. We also received some grant dollars from the CDBG program, which funds SEDC on a yearly basis. And then we received a grant from Huntington, we received a grant from CRA, and we received a grant from the DDA for our Small Business Expo. So we're excited about what we've done this year concerning our finances, and we look for additional opportunities in the future going forward. Far as workshops and mixers and events, on last year we offered an Excel training workshop on a Saturday afternoon for 3 hours. Charlene Orange executed that for us, the Orange Coffee Company, but it was sponsored by SCDC, offered by SCDC. We had a lot of interest in that. People were really excited and wanted to see an advanced course, so maybe in the future we'll have an advanced course. One of our networking opportunities that we offer is our small business mixer. We have a small business mixer for small businesses that we have every third Wednesday of the month from 5 to 6:30 inside of CMURC, where you can come. We have speakers. For example, this month we're going to have Mr. Kwame's going to be there going over business taxes for small businesses located here in the city of Saginaw. And then you can still take advantage of that if you're a business and you're not located in the city of Saginaw. We still would love to have you join that group. And then that's also a networking opportunity where you get to meet other small businesses and entrepreneurs amongst the community and see what resources or things that can be helpful for you if you're in the realm of entrepreneurship or small businesses. We also had the Trunk or Treat this year, which we had 27 vendors registered, and we had about 500 attendees. The kids and the parents love the Trunk or Treat, so this has been a great addition. This is our second year. I'm sure that tradition will carry on years to come. We also have our business plan writing workshop, which we offer 2 times a year. We usually offer it in the spring and the fall, where if you're looking to start a business and you need a business plan and you need some assistance with that, you can sign up and get assistance with your business plan. It's usually a 6-week series. We offer meets once a week, and we have some labs and things of that nature where we help write that business plan and execute that for our entrepreneurs. We also have a software that we use during that period of time so that the individual, we try to create the opportunity for success for them with that business plan. So we have a software that we use as well. SCDC also was highlighted at the Juneteenth Festival. We had a vendor booth there, as well as we were in the parade. So we try to highlight and participate within the community with all the upcoming events. So they keep us very busy. So one other thing that I'd like to add is our Saginaw Soup. So SEDC is on the committee for the Saginaw Soup, which is offered twice a year, which is in May and November, which is a pitch deck competition where entrepreneurs in the Tri-City area had the opportunity to win a cash prize for their pitch deck. So we have some workshops and some classes that they attend to, at that time, assist and help them with that pitch deck. And in the interim, they are judged by a panel of judges, and then the winner is chosen. So our mayor has been one of our judges once before in the past, and so maybe one of you may be interested in being one of our judges in the future. But these are some of the services and products that we offer at SCDC. SCDC is a host of things for small businesses. So do I have any questions? Yes, George.
This year, will it be, the expo, will it be set up like, I just love the whole block. It was like, I felt like I was at the place of Chicago. It was really blocked off like that again.
We haven't made the layout for 2024's expo as of yet, George. But I hear that it's gonna be hard to go back from that after last year. So potentially yes, but what we do have coming up is for the Memorial Cup. We have partnered with SEDC, SVRC, and CMURC, and it's called Shop Sensational. And we're gonna be out there for 5 days from May the 25th through May the 30th, and Water Street is going to be closed, and we're going to have that same ambiance as we did with the Small Business Expo. So we do have that coming up for the Memorial Cup. If you follow on our Facebook page as well as SBRC, you should be able to find the registration and share that amongst the community. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Ms. Keisha, as always, our pleasure. I'm sorry.
Do we have any manufacturers talking about coming here in the city of Saginaw? I mean, we need some jobs. Do we have any manufacturers talking about loans or?
Not at this time. We don't have any manufacturers. Most of the time, like if we had a manufacturer, that would be like a gap loan, because the manufacturer probably needs more dollars than SEDC can, fund. Our max is 220, and manufacturer is, on another level far as funding. But if, of course, that we had somebody to approach us, then we would definitely do what we can to assist.
I think that's a question we can sort of ask Future, because on the out range, that's who they handle, bigger and better.
I just have a comment.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
I just have a comment. It was a really great time at the trunk or treat, and that was my first time. And I know some of the families mentioned too, maybe for the next one, if possibly some food vendors can be on site to sell their food. I don't know if that's a possibility, because it was kind of during lunchtime and they were asking, and I was like, I don't know, this is my first year. But I mean, it was a really great turnout, and I had a lot of fun talking to all the
Yes.
families.
We consider that amongst the committee, having food trucks or food vendors to come and be a part of the trunk or treat. The only issue with that is we wanted to make it free and not really, we're always having something like, and there's something for sale. So we wanted to make it free, family friendly, and something that families in the community could support, and not to have an expense attached to it. That's not to say that we won't do that going forward, but as of right now, we're kind of up in the air with that.
Could we maybe get some businesses to donate and like maybe do hot dogs and chips or something?
I mean, that's a great idea. Maybe we can get somebody to sponsor. If we can get one of our small businesses or someone to sponsor that, then it would be just like a giveaway, and it wouldn't be additional cost to any of our, of the community wanting to attend. So that would be great. If you have somebody in mind, please let me know.
I'm actually gonna purchase a hot dog cart, so.
Oh, okay, there we go. All right, that would be your first networking opportunity to get you out there on the map amongst the small businesses. So, yeah, that would be great. Definitely let us know, okay? let us know if you'd like to do that or partner. Maybe you can get another business to partner with you to offer at that time, because it is a huge turnout for the trunk or
And it's
treat.
dinner time, people are hungry.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
We
definitely.
call it networking.
Yes.
We call it collaboration. We call it doing what we have to do to make it work. And you have a lot of businesses in Saginaw, I'm a living witness, that will donate stuff.
Yes.
If you're doing it and you say that you're doing it for this city, believe it or not, you have a lot of people who believe in this city. And they don't have a problem with donating. They've never been asked.
Yes, I agree.
So the problem is, begin to ask. I keep telling y'all, find something constructive to do that moves this city forward. Hot dogs, I don't care. Everybody love hot dogs. I do. Hot dogs, hot dogs, hot dogs. So, hot dogs, Priscilla.
Yes.
I want to add one more thing. We didn't talk about, we do have a new product line that is coming out, and it's geared toward the Memorial Cup. So it's the Memorial Cup loan program that we're offering through the time of the Memorial Cup. It is where small businesses have the opportunity to borrow up to $5,000. If you're a small business and if you've been in existence for at least 2 years, you have the opportunity to borrow, because we want our small businesses to be ready. We don't want to get ready, we want to be ready. So if you know anyone who's in need of funding for inventory equipment for the Memorial Cup, please let them know, and we will be sharing that information as well on our Facebook and on the city's webpage, because we're just rolling that out now, just at the end of the month here. So if you know of anyone or you're interested, please let us know.
That's good.
You guys gonna have any more workshops like you did announcing the Memorial Cup? I mean.
Oh, the meetings, the 2 sessions that we had?
Right.
Okay. As far as the meetings for the 2 sessions that we had, one was for small businesses and one was for nonprofits. We are looking to potentially get some more dates on the calendar where we can meet with those small businesses and nonprofits concerning the Memorial Cup. We haven't set anything in stone yet, but we are definitely looking to get some more dates on the calendar.
I'm saying that because I'm steady saying in these meetings I sit in, the citizens don't know. They don't know what's going on. I need you to help me understand and help me tell the community what's going on. So that's why I asked the question. For those that didn't come, it really was a good meeting. And yes, yours truly was there, and I did ask questions, and I want to put them on the spot. If you want the citizens to be on their best behavior, then you need to let the citizens know what's coming to our city. And let's be honest, let's take ownership, y'all. Our city. That means we're gonna clean our house up. We're gonna do the things we gotta do, y'all. So yeah, that's why I asked you. Because somebody did ask me and I was gonna send them your way, then I said, they might be doing another one.
Yes, so we're looking to add a couple of more dates, as I stated. So I will get with the committee members and see potentially what our dates will be, and we will definitely keep council informed.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Ms. Smith? Great presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, and we are gonna break.
You just, Mayor, you need to have a motion to do a lunch.
I need a motion to go eat. I need a motion. We need a motion. We need a motion to break for lunch.
So moved.
Second.
You see, I ain't have no problem with that one, y'all. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, I need a motion to go back into the strategic plan session.
Second.
It's been moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Mr. Manager,
Did you say nay?
Just waiting for the other folks.
what'd you say? Did somebody say nay?
He
I
said
did.
nay.
Yeah, I did.
Roll call vote, I'm sorry.
You're okay. Councilmember Sylvia is not seated. Councilmember Williams.
Yay.
Councilmember Balls is not seated. Mayor Pro Tem Bench.
Yes.
Councilmember Ostache.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Flores.
No.
Councilmember Copeland is not seated. Mayor Moore.
Yes.
You have 5 yes, the motion carries.
We will proceed. Council members are coming in slowly, but we need to move forward.
So, Madam Mayor, we have one last presentation under economic development, and it's an update from Saginaw Future, and I think Tom Miller will probably start the presentation off.
Good afternoon, council members.
Good afternoon.
Tim tells me we're the last presentation before
Yes.
you can. We only have 60 or 70 slides, and we will, 90 seconds per slide, we should be out of here
We're not doing that.
before 5 o'clock. Well, thank you for allowing us to give you a brief update today. You have heard me come here and provide you some updates on the medical diamond, but there are other things that we work on besides the one project that Tim and I and Phil and Lori and Yolanda work on. We're going to give you just a brief update. I'm going to go through these really quickly. I think you all know what economic development is, who we are, but economic development really does impact everybody. It impacts the amount of kids that are in schools. It impacts, the number of homes that are sold in the city of Saginaw. If you don't have jobs in your community, then that's really the basis for how you grow your community. So we're a 501c3 organization established in 1992. It was a partnership between the city of Saginaw, the county of Saginaw, and the Chamber of Commerce. Each had their own economic development arm. They came together to have one single vision for economic development in the county. We have 175 supporters, private individuals and foundations, and contracts with 15 local units of government, and the city of Saginaw and county of Saginaw represent some of our largest contributors, 2 of our largest contributors. We have 8 staff members, and 2 of those are in our Apex, which we'll get into a little bit later. Our mission and our vision, the kind of a lot of words on this slide, but it's pretty simple. It's to create jobs and investment in the county of Saginaw. Here's our team. Most or half of us are here today. And Tim Dempsey, who will speak later, is our used to work in the city of Saginaw for the DDA and went to East Lansing for a number of years, but he's back and we're happy to have him. This is our current board list. You can see the manager and the mayor are on this, but we are represented by business, labor, education, government. It was enshrined in our bylaws during the formation of Saginaw Future to ensure that we had good coverage of all different sectors represented on our board for economic development. These are our 2023 goals. Now, this is sort of, we measure this, we're finishing up our 4th quarter, and usually we report to the county 4th quarter of 2022 through the first 3 quarters of 2023. You can see there that the city of Saginaw, in terms of the amount of work that we do, is well represented. It makes up about half of our projects, half of our job creation, and usually that's usually how it happens historically. Apex, which for the 20 years that I've been at Saginaw Future, just changed their name last year. It's always been the PTAC. It's a federal program, and it simply works with companies one-on-one to help them find government contracts, whether that be local, state, or federal contracts. And we do work with a number of companies in the city of Saginaw to help them find contracts for business. And it's not just, of course, we work with manufacturers, but they also work with landscape companies and all sorts of different companies because the government does buy a variety of goods and services. You can see here a list of all of the projects that we worked on in the city of Saginaw. A lot of these you'll find familiar. And please, interrupt me if you have any questions, or at the end if you have questions about specific projects or things that we're working on. In total, for the city of Saginaw, again, this is third quarter or fourth quarter of 2022 and the first 3 quarters of 2023. We did 39 corporate watch calls in the city of Saginaw. We worked on Going Pro applications for 11 companies. Those are job training funds through Michigan Works. 3 companies in the city of Saginaw received export assistance, another service of the PTAC. We also managed through the DDA the $1 million Eagle grant for the school district, for the new high school, which is, it ends up being quite a bit of work to work through those Eagle grants. Something that we'll get into a little bit later, but one of the initiatives is our Coming Home event to try and help local employers find talent, which is one of the biggest obstacles in economic development currently. We had an event at the Pierce Road Bar and Grill, which is right across from SVSU, and several hundred students showed up, and we had about 30 businesses, local businesses. And it was really, I think we've all been to job fairs where you walk around and you collect pencils or erasers. Not a lot of real good interaction. We rented out the whole space there at the Pierce Road Bar and Grill. Each employer, several of them from the city of Saginaw, had a table with their HR person or whomever might be doing the hiring. And the students that showed up, and again, I think there were several hundred, went around to each of the tables and brought their resumes. And so it was really nice to see the interaction. I went and attended and talked to about 10 of the companies that were there, and they really liked the personal one-to-one connection with each one of those businesses went away with a handful of resumes, which was good. And then Steve will talk later about the Saginaw Soup, who he partners with Yolanda and Cassie and several members of the city to work on. This is a list of, so Apex does, you can see the minority and women-owned businesses. Apex, that's one of their things that they handle is minority and women-owned certification. And then we're also working, Delana from our office, who's been there for over 30 years and runs the Apex. We have been working with a couple of different pastors on housing projects in the city of Saginaw, and you can see them listed there. I primarily have worked with Pastor Pryor, and I've been working with him for the past couple of years on some housing projects. Now the mouse is stuck. Here we go. So now we'll get into some of our strategic initiatives that maybe you have not heard so much about, and I'm going to let Tim come up and discuss those.
Good afternoon, and it's good to be back in front of you. So I'm going to talk about 2 regional initiatives that Saginaw Future is working on. And by regional, I mean Prosperity Region 5. So these are regions established by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation across the state. We're in an 8-county region. So besides Saginaw, that includes Aranac, Bay, Clare, Isabella, Gratiot, Gladwin, and Midland. So that's our 8-county region, and both of these initiatives are funded through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. The first one is the ICE to EV initiative. So as we all know, there's a transition taking place right now as automakers are trying to move from the internal combustion, right, our traditional gas-powered engine vehicles to electric vehicles. And in that transition, the state really wants to try to help and support companies that manufacture automobiles, but also all of the suppliers, the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 suppliers that support the automotive industry. So this initiative is designed to help them with that transition. So we did an initial study with the Center for Automotive Research at the University of Ann Arbor, and they recommended that, based on where the industry is headed, we try to do a deeper dive with companies to really understand how aware are they of this transition, what can we do to help them based on the needs that they actually have, and then implement some activities to support them. This ties into MEDC's sort of Industry 4.0 initiative to help companies utilize technology and their, particularly manufacturers, but then also the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity is going to be standing up an office of community and worker economic transition, they're calling it. So this office is going to be specifically designed to help companies and employees who are working sort of with legacy industries to help transition to the new economy, whether that's, electric vehicles or things beyond that in terms of the green economy. So there'll be more to that. Our next step is really to do a deep dive survey with a number of the manufacturers. The study did identify about 160 companies in the region which could be impacted by this transition. About 120 of those are in Saginaw County, and about 25 of them are located within the city. So it will definitely be something that we'll keep you apprised of as we move forward. And then the other regional initiative that we're working on is the Strategic Site Readiness Program. Again, another MEDC-funded initiative. They awarded Saginaw Future in the region, again, the 8 counties, $1.4 million to help identify and prepare sites so that they're ready, so that if there is a prospective company that they're trying to attract to the state, that we have available sites. So what we can do with that money is some pre-development work, whether it's design, engineering, environmental, to help move that site along in terms of its readiness. We have a 2-year timeline on this project to expend the funds, and then our deliverable is we want to have at least one priority site in each of the 8 counties that MEDC can then market not only nationally but globally as well. And then Tom's going to talk more about the Medical Diamond Project here at the end, but there is an application for a site-specific strategic site readiness program grant of $10 million for the Medical Diamond Project. So those are the 2 big regional initiatives, but they do have implications for the city and the county.
Yes.
For Saginaw specifically, when it comes down to the 1.4 million, so I see that 10 million is for the Medical Diamond, and that impacts us as the city of Saginaw. Are we sticking with that, or within that 1.4, we will have additional space in Saginaw City that will benefit?
Yeah, the 1.4 is separate from the $10 million application, and then the allocation by county is really driven on a per capita basis. The site that'll actually, or sites that'll end up being invested in will depend on the criteria that we ultimately develop. Because again, we have to make sure that we identify sites that are readily available to be purchased, but also meet the criteria that the MEDC is sort of working on establishing. So. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and I think he's going to be talking about the DDA work.
Thank you, Tim. Greetings. I'm Steve Hensley, Community and Economic Development Director with Saginaw Future. Today I'm going to go through some slides on some of the work we've been doing on the DDA front. So for those unfamiliar, just as a side note, dating back to about 2015, the city of Saginaw is contracted with Saginaw Future, and we staff and administer the DDA. Our funds primarily come from a 2 mil levy, so for every $1,000 in property value within the DDA, we collect $1, and then that equates to about $125,000 annually in our budget. The core of the DDA is set forth in our development plan, and so as you can see, the central figure there is economic development. Our intention is to spur economic development, jobs created, and in the end, improve the DDA and make it a more robust area for our businesses and the surrounding city area to thrive. Through those initiatives, or that core initiative is the other that's been set forth throughout the DDA. It's improvement plan, that's the facade improvement grant program, also enhanced beautification, and then the special event sponsorship, and then safety, which is through security cameras, overtime police patrols during certain parts of the year. This next slide, we'll go through those initiatives and how they've actually made an impact. So in the last calendar year, We've seen 10 facade projects supported that's resulted in over $55,000 in grants to awarded projects. Those projects in themselves aggregated is over $379,000 in investment in the DDA. Through the enhanced beautification and attractiveness initiatives, you'll likely have seen those large flower pots throughout the corridors, main parts of the DDA, 43 of those this past spring and summer. 30 of those holiday winter plant potters that are still out there, and then 78 of those LED snowflake lights that go up throughout the holiday season. Special events, 10 of those were awarded grants that resulted in over $14,000. Those support typically nonprofits, events that are intended to bring people to the district and improve the overall aesthetic and vision of the city. Match on Main is a grant program that's it's facilitated through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And seeing as Saginaw is a redevelopment-ready community, we can apply for the Match on Main grant cycle that usually happens once to twice a year. As the local unit of government, the DDA, we serve as that applicant, so we field those applications here at the local level, and then we can submit up to 2 of those apps. The last recipient that was awarded in our district was Cream and Sugar Ice Cream Company, which they'll be opening later this year in 2024. The big picture, the outlook, what does this result in going forward in '24? As set forth in the development plan, we plan to continue to implement the programs as mentioned on the screen, but also with the Memorial Cup coming in 2024. As everyone knows, the DDA has prioritized how do we improve and set forth the district and allow our stakeholders and businesses to benefit from that economic influx. And so for that reason alone, the DDA has allocated $27,000 to that Stars Riverfront loop. The intention there is that whether they're locals or folks who are visiting the area throughout the run of the Memorial Cup, we want to make it as easy and accessible for those folks to stay in the district, support those businesses, visit the organizations, and in the end, DDA and our stakeholders will benefit. And then as you can see here, these are just some DDA-supported projects through those data figures that I've mentioned in the previous slides. I won't run through each one of them, but on the left side is special event sponsorships. You'll see there's a real diverse array of organizations that have been supported throughout this last calendar year. And then facade grants on the right, those are the businesses who've been supported. And then here you'll see this through the Great Lakes Bay sites. This is where Saginaw Future is assisted. A couple of my colleagues have worked more largely on this initiative. But when folks are in here throughout the Memorial Cup, we realize that for the Canadians coming across the border, this is new territory. They don't necessarily know where things are and where to get around. This QR code and map will be available. You can scan that and you'll see on the site there, there'll be a list of businesses, shopping and attractions and parking throughout the DDA so that they can easily navigate. There'll be a Google map, so if they're going to a location, they can see what it looks like from the exterior when they arrive. And that has been supported by a grant that allows us to facilitate that website. And we are encouraging businesses, if they're not on there and they would like to be, to please reach out, and we will be sure that they're included. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Steve. Just a couple of last updates there. And just to talk about the SSRP, specifically for industrial sites for the city of Saginaw, there aren't a ton. But the 2 that we have looked at, one is the former nodular site across from Saginaw Metal Castings operation. They have about, I can't remember, 300 acres of former nodular, the plant site, and I think about 40 acres is located in the city of Saginaw, the former parking lot and the foundation of the building. So we've been working with Racer Trust. Actually, they did some conceptual site plans to design 100,000 square foot, 250,000, and a 500,000 square foot building that might be able to fit on that site. So, and then the other one that we're looking at in the city is the former TRW. First, that's got to get cleaned up. It was contaminated by the owner. That has been an issue. So those would be the two primary sites for the city of Saginaw. Just a quick update on the medical diamond. It's probably the largest, it is the largest project that we're working on in the city of Saginaw, largest one in several decades. We've been working with Spicer, Derek Huff's in the back there. We have two groups that are meeting every 2 weeks to discuss both the clinical and design side of the project, and then a group that meets on the infrastructure side, and we're meeting every 2 weeks. Just as a reminder, this is the general layout of the site as we see it so far. Between the AT&T building to the north and the Garber building on the south, those 4 blocks, including the riverfront. Just so you kind of get an understanding of the total infrastructure that it takes to build $150 million development. These are the Spicer. We worked with Spicer to identify preliminary cost estimates, and this is what they came up with. The Consumers Energy, obviously, they didn't come up with. We've been working with Consumers and have an estimate around $15 million. So overall, we're looking at about $50 million of infrastructure need. The words showed up really small here. You can't see those. You may be able to see them on your screen. But I can assure you that each one of these bubbles represents an activity that we need to do pre-development work. Environmental, survey, geotechnical work, floodplain evaluation. There's a number of different things that we need to do before we even can design the site, and that's what we're going to be working on over the next year. And I have a little timeline that Derek and his staff put together at Spicer. So Cassie's also part of that group, Yolanda, Lori, Tim. We're all trying to pitch in to move this project forward. But you can see here, over the next 12 months, we're going to be doing a lot of that pre-development investigation. At the last council meeting, you approved a contract with Studio Gang. Their engagement, I think, is 90 days, and so they'll be putting together a conceptual site plan for the overall campus, and then we've got about a year's worth of work to do to just look at all of the infrastructure work. And that is our update for today. Yes.
Do you have any questions? Yes, Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I want to go back to where it says by the numbers, current impact, match on Main grant. And it was said by the other presenter that it's either once or twice a year.
Yep.
But I wanted to know what determines whether it's once or twice a year.
Yeah, and historically, it has been twice a year. But we literally just got an email from the MEDC on Monday that they are foregoing one of the rounds this year. So the MEDC, the budget is approved by the legislature. And so they have a pool of money to sort of organize around programs. And for whatever reason, and I have heard some of the other programs that we work with are CRP, the Community Revitalization Program Fund. They are nearing the end of their allocation in terms of how much money they have left. And so they fund those programs as long as they have a budget that's allocated by the state legislature, and then when they run out, they need a new allocation, so that would be the reason.
Well, the lack of funding would be.
Yeah, we hope, they didn't give us any information whether they'll be doing a second round. They just let us know that the spring round they weren't gonna do the spring round.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes, Councilman Ball.
Thank you, Madam. Consumer energy costs, is consumers gonna eat up that cost?
No. No,
I'm just saying, since they gonna be the ones collecting the money when the consumers get there, it seems like they should be the ones that put the power lines.
Yeah, and we've had numerous discussions with Consumers Energy. The cost sharing is guided by a set of rules that comes from the Public Service Commission. They can give us a discount or a credit on the distribution lines. So from the transmission lines are the ones that run across the county. The distribution ones are the ones that distribute power from the transmission to the site. Unfortunately, of that $15 million, about $1.5 million is distribution lines. So the manager did send a letter to the president of Consumers asking for any assistance that they might be able to come up with. But it's highly regulated, and so we're working through. We're certainly going to try and take advantage of any kind of program that they would have to give us a discount on
And
that.
most of that's gonna be underground work?
Yeah, it's going to all be,
All of it?
yeah, big culverts, and then they run the public utilities underneath there.
Okay, well, hopefully they will pick up some of that cost, man, 'cause
So-
they're gonna be the ones reaping the benefits.
Yeah, they base it based on the new load. So a lot of times if you're installing a large manufacturer, a new manufacturing operation, they know that they're gonna be paying huge electricity fees. But the College of Medicine, a hotel, an apartment complex, they don't draw a ton of electrical usage. And so they don't cast off a lot of additional revenue.
Well, we hoping that you, twist their arms and
We're gonna do our best.
as much as possible.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, the slide that you were showing, Medical Diamond, and it's got the green shading. I'm looking at the key and I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, so the green shading is designated parkland, so we can't develop there. And Phil Carwatt can come up here and talk for a couple minutes if he likes, but we have there's a really large collector sewer, I can't remember the circumference, 10 feet. And so you obviously can't relocate a public utility of that size cost effectively. So that'll remain parkland, and the plan is to use infrastructure dollars to improve access to the river and beautification, including a lot of different proposed things, but certainly seawall installation, sidewalk, extend the river walk. There's been talk of additional amenities to help access the river for all public use, not just the Medical Diamond.
Thank you.
Councilman Copeland.
Thank you. Can you share you just mentioned hotels and apartments. I've only heard about the medical facility. What are we putting in this Medical Diamond?
Yeah, so, none of those decisions have completely been made, but the proposed plan would include a behavioral health clinic. We know that, because you contributed $5 million of ARPA dollars, and that's first on the list to get done. But there will be a standalone private office building, most likely. We're hoping there will be a behavioral health clinic. We know that the College of Medicine building will be the most significant investment on the site. And then there is potential for additional retail, hotel, and there also is need for residential. Now, this is not CMU, I want to be very clear. CMU's portion of the project would be the medical building alone. And the $100 or so million that maybe $75 to $100 million structure, those funds would be raised locally. So we would have to raise those funds locally, not you all and not me. There's a different committee for that. But CMU is not contributing those dollars. Those dollars would be raised locally to build that structure. And then all of the other developments that would be associated with it would be, in this case, it would be the city in partnership perhaps with the county for the behavioral health clinic. If it was a hotel, it would be a private developer. If it was a housing development, it'd be a private developer.
So the county is most of you probably know, the county allocated $5 million of their ARPA for the health building too that we're working on with them. We should have, then we will be a sub-grant recipient for ARPA through the county. So we'll be bringing a contract for you all to approve after we get that from the county.
Are we giving them 30 days too, like we giving everybody else?
They'll give us 30 days.
Oh, okay.
They're the grantor, so.
Okay.
The seawall, is
Yeah.
the Corps of Engineering gonna help pay for that in the state?
No, I mean, we would,
Federal government?
we would seek any kind of, the DNR has grant opportunities from time to time. So we would explore like a DNR grant potentially to help us pay for that. And the seawall is a really expensive line item in that budget. Derek, I think it's $2,000 or so a linear foot, so.
And it's over 5,000 feet, so it adds up.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just saying, have we even explored the fact that the federal government or Corps of Engineers can help out?
Yeah, so
Maybe you should break down the funding, because most of the funding we have for infrastructure is from the state and federal government.
Yep.
anyway.
So, and, you know, I think Tim brings up a good point. Tim and I primarily, thinking about this project over the last several years, started to try and figure out a way to sell, and actually Tim at Public Sector Consultants helped to put together the first narrative detail and grant request to, it wasn't Rural Development, Department of EDA, an EDA grant. We use that as a template to design our request to, so our first amount of money that we secured was a $3.3 million appropriation through Congressman Kildee's office. Those requests are annual, but we've learned those are relatively new. I mean, they were old and then they came back again. The typical award through the federal appropriations program is usually between $1 and $3 million. So you're not going to get a ton of money from the federal appropriations process. The next tranche of money that we received was obviously the large one, and the $30.3 million, which a ton of people got together to lobby, and thanks to our State Representative O'Neill, organized the group to secure that $30.3 million from the state appropriations. Sort of so on that side of the ledger, we had raised some money. Of course, the city and the county committed $10 million in ARPA funding. We brought on Spicer to start really diving into the cost estimation for the infrastructure work that would go into the project. The next phase is to have Studio Gang come on board so that they can design the site, lay it out for us, show us what's possible on the site. And then at the same time, we're going to be finalizing our numbers. We have to choose a final route for Consumers Energy, which will give us a definitive route. Fishback is going to design the final design for consumers. So they'll give us a definitive price on that project. Spicer, once we get the work back from Studio Gang, they will give us more definitive numbers in a package at the end of this year about what the infrastructure is going to look like. And then we're going to have a committee, at some point probably in the summer, a committee formed for finance. And it's going to be specifically to do just that, look at any local, state, or federal opportunities to help, whether it's grants or appropriations, to contribute to the work. And as Tim said, I submitted a $10 million request at the end of last year, which we'll hear by the end of this month, whether we're going to receive any of that funding. Yeah.
Any other questions? As always, Mr. Miller, thank you to Future. We have a better future in the rising, y'all.
Right.
Mr. Manager.
Madam Mayor, that concludes the presentations for today.
Okay, so now I go back into my regular spiel, okay?
If there's no other motions, we can move on to appointment of board, commission, committee members.
Is there any motions? Hearing none. Is there any motions? Last and final time. Is there any motions?
Mayor, I
George,
believe Councilman Copeland.
I don't know how to word the motion, so I will hold off until I know how to word the motion.
for how long? You got it?
Oh, no, I don't. I'm following. Oh, like, no. Like, yeah, because it's a directed staff, but I need to, it's only motions right now, so I'm gonna hold off until I find out how to motion that. So it'll be at the next meeting, more than likely.
Okay, to be continued.
I need,
We can move on
I
to the
need a
next
motion
item.
to approve item number 1 through 5, leaving room for exceptions.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any exceptions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Okay, that takes us to resolutions. The first one is recognizing the Emmaus House as a nonprofit organization for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license.
I need a motion to adopt.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those all those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
Our second is authorizing sponsors of specified community events to use amplifying equipment for 2024.
I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second. Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Madam Clerk.
Final resolution is authorizing sponsors of specified community events to use, I have that worded wrong.
I need a motion to adopt.
Hold on
Or she
one
can read it
second, Mayor.
Sale and consumption.
I copied and pasted the same thing twice. So it's to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages during specified community events for 2024.
Now I need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, what do you mean by this? I mean, if somebody come here and ask for a license, then you already got the authorization to give it to them without coming back to the city council? Is that what it is?
What this is we've been doing special events for 20-plus years, so those events that we've been doing for that long that have set a precedence of using sound amplifying or needing to get the alcohol approval because it's in the ordinance, we're just, instead of bringing these individually throughout the year, we're just getting them pre-approved at pretty much the set date that they normally have, so it's authorizing it for events that we've already had over the last.
There's 7 events that it's for.
But what if somebody else come in?
Nope. It'd have to be, these are just for the 7 listed. Like if somebody came in for a new event and wanted to be able to sell alcohol, that would be a separate one we'd bring back to you for approval.
Can they have the player prices?
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Maybe next time we should just put in here that for events that's already planned for this particular year.
The specific events are outlined in the council communication
Okay,
with the
all right, thank
resolution.
you.
We are at the time. Is there any other discussion? Anything
You have to
else?
take your vote on that.
Oh, I thought we took, okay, I need a vote on that. On number 3, under resolutions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The time that everybody's been waiting for. Anything else you want to talk about? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, don't y'all move.
Third.
And I should just hold it for 5 minutes. I should just say, Al, hold it.
Any discussion, she's
I
got to
should
discuss
say,
it.
Al, hold it. Okay.
The mayor's
All
is
those
going
in
home.
favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Have a great weekend, y'all, and thank y'all for coming.